basically we do mediation, arbitration, representation in courts of law, in arbitration stations, and being labor, we use mostly the labor offices. We also use mostly the industrial court of Uganda, and a few cases in the magistrate court.
Oh, the industrial court, that's a division. Is it in the high court or that's magistrate level? What level is the industrial court?
It's at the high level. It's a division of the high court.
Okay.
Yes.
So you mean before, at the magistrate level, there's nothing for handling labor disputes? Or?
They are there. We have some legislations, as we are going to see, or some laws that concern workers' issues. For example, like the Workers' Compensation Act, it gives the jurisdiction of such disputes to the magistrate courts. You have the NSSF Act, it also gives jurisdiction of such issues to the magistrate court.
I thought you just jumped into the
No, we don't just
high
jump
court.
into it.
Okay, I mean, this is a good, good one to start with. Just to understand really, because we're talking about employment, talking about labor rights. These are ideas that perhaps many people still need to understand. Like when you talk about employment rights, labor rights, what exactly are we talking about? What does it entail? Why should I even care about labor rights? Is that something I should lose sleep over? Is it a big deal?
True. True. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for that question. And maybe even to our investors who is watching this show elsewhere, even outside the country. Why should you care about the labor rights? First of all...
What are they, maybe to start with?
Yeah, I'm going to just come to just that. But why should we care? Because there's labor component. And often than not, when we are planning our businesses and everything, we never think about the labor force itself. That actually is going to be doing this particular business that you're setting up, or this franchise that you're thinking about. So labor is a factor of production, but it has, and because it's a factor of production, if it's not well handled, it has a direct impact on the production, on the output. So if it's well handled, it also has very positive impact on the output, on the growth of every enterprise, every business that anyone sets up. So we need labor at the end of the day. So that's why you should care about labor. Going back to the law itself, as a country, Uganda is a very progressive country. Yes, when it comes to setting up laws and policies, we are a very progressive country. Even you're looking into the rest of the East African country, we are very progressive. We are a member of the International Labour Organization, and because of that, because it's labor, we have ratified, Uganda has signed quite a number of international conventions. And maybe to the person watching us, conventions are those international, let me call them sets of like rules and regulations or laws. You can take it like that, literally. So those ones, those international agreed upon sets of laws and rules, is that they give a basis upon which a country goes back and actually contextualize those rules into their setting. So going back to the country as Uganda, when it comes to labor and employment laws, we have ratified a number of conventions, but I'll not go into so much of details. I'll look at that nationally what we have here. We start with the Constitutional Republic of Uganda. As workers, labor and employment, we find our bearing in the Constitution under Article 40. So it details everything, and then it goes ahead to give powers to Parliament to make laws to ensure that, you know, to set up, I'll call it, you know, a favorable working environment for both the employers but also the workers as well. So from the Constitution, the law that we have that comes an act of Parliament is the Employment Act of 2000. We used to have what we used to call the Factory Act, but that was changed in 2006. Yeah, and when I'll come back another day and I'll tell you why we changed it.
I was actually curious because factory, then employment. So if I was working in a school, the law wouldn't apply to me.
It's because the law that was being changed at that time actually was a colonial law. So most of the worker, like the employment opportunities were in the factories. So that's why we ended up having a Factory Act. And so it was what was governing the employment relationship at that time.
Africans are not doing
I think white collar jobs. So, but then in 2006 we see, it's also another history where we came up with these laws, but in 2006 we have the Employment Act of 2006. So this is now the guiding tool for any worker there, any employer there.
Okay.
Why? Because it is, we call it is like the basic employment contract between the employer and the employee.
Basic.
It is the basic. That law is the basic.
What does that mean? Basic.
So, like, it sets the standard. You cannot go below that.
A minimum standard.
That is the minimum standard. For example, if they say, let me give an example. If they say that you are a female employee should be given 60 days maternity leave,
yes,
you cannot say you get 30. No, you can at least say you get 80.
Okay.
So that's why we call it the basic.
The basic.
Yeah. So you every provision there, and you cannot contract out of that law. In other words, you cannot have a contract of employment that is saying this provision does not apply to you. Like, for example, you're not entitled to leave. No, that such a provision cannot be allowed.
It's illegal.
It's illegal because we have this basic, you know, or the law that states that standard, the starting point of negotiation of any contract. Even if you are negotiating a CBA, what we call the collective bargaining agreement, for those workers in unions, they still use that law as the basic, you know, negotiating tool that they have. So under this particular law, we have different rights set out for the worker or for the employee. So now we have to be very careful. We use these words interchangeably, but actually they mean different things.
Worker
and the employee.
And employee.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, if I go in the market and I find a woman selling tomatoes, she's a worker, but is she an employee?
You tell us. So how do you transit from worker to employee?
That is why I wanted us just to understand that particular concept as well, so that when we define these particular laws, we know who are we talking about. So this, when we call about an employee has to have a boss. Let me use that literal way of, you know, like someone they report to, supervisors, what, and everything. So this person, then the other one becomes the employer, and then becomes the employee. So now that woman in the market who is selling her tomatoes, she's a worker, but she's not an employee.
We could argue she's everything. Chief everything officer. She employs herself. She pays her salary.
Unfortunately,
she knows when to work and not when to work.
Unfortunately, the principles of distinguishing between these two people cannot allow us to call her everything. Because if you call her everything, it will be hard when it comes to certain aspects. For example, we're going to talk about rights, and then we shall ask, and we shall go back, and you, our viewers, let us keep that in mind, that do these rights go to this particular person who is having their own enterprise? They have not brought any person on this stall to sell these tomatoes. They themselves are the owners, proprietors of this particular business that they are
So
holding.
are you suggesting, Lydia, then that workers and employees have different rights?
Yes, they will have different rights depending where they are. Yes, and I will just highlight that as we go on.
I know there are many laws, and you talked about the Employment Act.
Yes.
Or maybe any other that you want to?
I think I first do all the laws before I come back to the rights.
Yes.
So we also have the Workers' Compensation Act, like I shared. That one deals with issues to do with injuries in the course of employment or at workplace. And we will see what does it mean to be in the course of employment. You are traveling to work, or you are from work, you are at work, or you are protecting your employer's property and you're injured. So either it's injury or disease. You can and now where we are right now with COVID-19, this particular law has actually been put to test as we go on.
That's an important point. I think let's pause for a quick break. Then we'll sort of come back and build on from there, because you've touched on a very sensitive area around injuries, and we've had a couple of cases, reported in the media of people, getting injured. Viewers, you're watching You and the Law, the COVID edition. And today we are with Lydia Buite from the Platform for Labor Action, one of the foremost NGOs working on to protect employment rights in this country. Let's go for a short break, and we'll be right back.
When it comes to the law, we basically live the law, on a day-to-day basis, whether it is in your bedroom, there is a law that governs it. If you're married, for example, even if you're single, there could be something touching on the law, because you might be in your bedroom with an underage girl, or you might be with another person's wife. You know, all the things are the law. You know.
If you're a human being, you have rights. Those rights are called human rights. They are examples: the right to health, the right to freedom from torture, that underscores human dignity, freedom from slavery. You're not supposed to be someone's slave.
If you look at our penal code, it sets out another marriage laws. It sets out the persons who can marry and those who cannot marry, right? For example, you can't marry your close relatives. You know, if you did, you'd be committing a crime.
The state is not supposed to tell you who to worship, how to worship, how many times in a day. No, you have a right to work. A right to work. You have freedom of association.
Cohabitation for whatever period of time does not make you husband and wife, right? And that is why we emphasize to people that when the relationship is still hot, you know, you must ensure that you do what? Marry.
Yes.
You know?
For human rights to be respected, protected, and fulfilled, relevant government programs must actually work. Medicine should reach hospitals, oxygen should be there, health workers should have gloves, teachers should be present. Now they are mostly absent, and they have left the profession, a good number of them. They are into trading. So things must work. If things don't work, human rights are not respected, are not protected, and are not fulfilled.
COVID-19 has tested our hope and faith as individuals, families, and the country at large. Besides destroying many aspects of our lives, the novel coronavirus has also affected our human rights in many ways. You and the Law, the COVID edition, is a 30-minute weekly television program that focuses on the impact of COVID-19 on human rights in Uganda. The program engages experts to explain the importance of rights-based approaches to the success of any public health response to ensure the respect, protection, and fulfillment of human rights amidst the challenges presented by COVID-19. You and the Law, the television program, brought to you by Legal Hub Uganda, taking the law to the last mile in proud association with I4C Africa Hub and House of Talent Television, coming soon.
Welcome back. This is You and the Law, the COVID edition, and today we're discussing impacts of COVID-19 on employment and labor rights in Uganda, and we're hanging out with Ms. Lydia Buite from the Platform for Labor Action. She's the manager of programs. Lydia, welcome back from the break.
Thank you.
Before we went for a break, you touched on a sensitive law around workers' compensation in Uganda, and highlighting how you could get compensated for injuries you get in the course of your work. I thought you could maybe carry on from there. Yes.
So that particular law is really focusing on if a worker gets injured in the course of employment, in terms of what are the obligations of the employer, in terms of offering treatment until he or she is completely healed. Healed. In fact, we have, you can offer treatment up to like 98 months. That is about 8 years.
Wow.
Then the responsibility to compensate.
Completely healed.
Yes, completely healed. You can heal. I can heal completely when I have lost my arm, but I've healed, although I am now permanently incapacitated. So the employer is supposed to first treat me. I get completely healed, and then they assess my incapacitation, and then he or she compensates me.
And in all that period, you're supposed to be paid.
Paid. Yes. Oh, I had left that one out. Yes. During that period, you're supposed to be paid. That period, which we call temporary incapacitation period. That covers the period of hospitalization or any other period that the doctor and medical personnel has recommended that this person needs to be off work.
Oof.
So I healed, because there are people who get really sick.
Yeah.
Because it's not only dealing with with injuries. It's also dealing with diseases that can be contracted in the course of employment. Okay. And that is when you look at the situation of COVID-19.
Exactly.
And we ask ourselves, are the employers even paying much attention when it comes to this particular pandemic and the impact it can actually have on them if the workers are not well protected? Because that same law also puts an obligation on the employer to ensuring the worker to ensure that
insure like the insurance company,
insurance company for the workers, for workers' compensation. So that in case you have any liability, then your insurers should be able to meet that particular responsibility.
Okay. Lina, we need to switch gears to talk about COVID-19, but I thought, are there any other laws you just want to drop one-liners?
Yes, we have the National Social Protection Fund Act, NSSF.
Yes.
We have the Public Service Act. We never talk about them, and yet they are
that
also
for people
workers.
In government?
Yes, for civil servants, those who work with the government. Okay. We have the Occupational Safety and Health Act.
Okay.
That is regarding to the environment where you work from. Is it healthy? Is it is it the standard for you to be in as a human being?
That thing should be fumigated or what?
We shall see. Is there aeration or all those things? You have drinking water, sanitation, all those ones. That law looks at them. And then the responsibilities therein. What other law haven't I talked about? We also have the Minimum Wages Councils Act of...
I know you've been working a lot on minimum wage.
Yes, of 1984. So all that law is also there.
When are we setting the minimum wage for this country?
That one, I think you need to have a conversation.
It's a long conversation.
With
okay, so Lydia, you've given us a clear picture of what is rights are, and the law that provides for them, especially at the national level.
Yeah.
So then COVID-19 comes in and shakes things up. How do you explain to somebody, the effects that the pandemic has had on employment and labor rights? What are some of the issues that have emerged from a labor rights, employment rights angle? Yeah, because I know you deal with these things on a regular. Yeah.
True. Thank you. First, even before I come to that, very quickly, we saw that in the Employment Act, that's where most of the rights are.
Yes.
So the right to be paid your wages is your right, because it is the contract of employment is that you work and you are paid.
Yes.
So that is a very simple right.
Yeah.
Work and you are paid. So the right to be paid.
Yes.
But we have also rights like annual leave. The right to annual leave. Every worker is entitled to 21 days in every calendar year to go and rest, refresh.
You're working on Zoom. You're already
So we are going to come to that. That's why I wanted to first quickly highlight them, so that we see how these rights, as they are right now, how have they been impacted, and maybe the employer out there, what can they do, around this particular issue. Then we have the right to paternity leave. I said with paternity, 4 days for any wife. And the law is very clear when we say the wife. We mean the person whom you have entered into a marriage contract legally, a legally binding marriage. Because in law we don't use the word wife to mean cohabitation. No.
So, are you suggesting that if my girlfriend gave birth,
true,
I am not entitled to paternity leave? Do I cease being the father? Because the person who has given birth is not.
Actually, you don't cease being the father, but there's a way when the law uses a certain word, and if you are to interpret it, in fact, your employer, if they ask you for the marriage certificate, they would not be wrong, because the law uses the word wife, and we know that for one to be a wife, we know the different marriages that are actually allowed in Uganda. Okay. So you need to pay attention to some of those particular areas. Yeah. But you have 4 days as a male employee, and your wife has given birth, you will be given. For the woman, we also have the right to maternity leave of 60 working days. 60
working days?
Yes, 60
Let's clarify
working days.
This. What does that mean in terms of calendar months?
Yes.
What does it mean?
So we don't include weekends, unless at your workplace, even before your maternity leave, you work 6 days. If you work 6 days ordinarily, then we shall actually count you 6 days. But if you work 5 days, we only count 5 days in
Monday
every
to
week,
Friday.
Monday to Friday. But and also if there is any public holiday that falls within this period, we don't include it. So we don't include public holidays, we don't include weekends. So that is how we get to that.
So Lydia, in simple terms.
Let me also add something. 60 working days fully paid for.
Okay.
Yes. We've seen some employers who say, take off 60 days. You go, we shall fully pay you. No, 30 days. The other 30 days, we'll pay you half, unless you come back and work. There are such employers, but actually you do it, breaking the law, because the law says 60 working days, and those days have to be paid for.
Okay.
Yes, so that's the other right that someone has a right to rest. As they're at work, they should rest at least. You give them at least 1 hour of rest during their time.
Take coffee,
lunch.
lunch.
Take off. They also have a right to be paid overtime if they work overtime. And this one, ensure you as the employer, you need to ensure that, because we have seen the Industrial Court of Uganda setting for us precedents, you need to ensure that if a worker remains your employee remains at work, what are they doing? Were they able to deliver what they ought to have delivered in the 8 hours of the day? And if they are unable, then let them go back home. Because if they stay and sign out, if we sign out at 8:30 and I sign out at 9 p.m., it means that is overtime at the end of the day.
Lydia, so we need to switch to COVID-19 then.
Yes.
You've given us a very clear picture.
Yeah.
So how are these two mixed?
Those two mixed. So we started with the right to be paid.
Yes.
When you work, you are paid. Now, because of COVID-19, the economic situation has really affected the employers, really, because we've seen reporting of slow growth from the National Planning Authority, and indeed you can see it. So that has then led to violation of this right to be paid. I can tell you at Platform for Labour Action, 87% of the cases that we handle are non-payment of wages. So
that's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. And the employers are saying we are not making ends meet. So I need them to be here, but I'm unable to pay them.
Okay.
Other workers, what has also happened is that COVID-19 has, in fact, is coercing, if I use all those words,
Yes.
is coercing workers to compromise on their rights. One of the rights is the right to annual leave. Now, you have periods where you're being sent into lockdown, and workers are sent back home, and they can't act, so they are not working. You expect them to work.
Yes.
We have seen those that have actually set up working from home,
Yes.
working on Zoom
Teams,
and all that, Teams and all those platforms that have come up. Now, but there are those other jobs that they need your physical presence for this work to be done.
True.
But you have a lockdown. The first lockdown we had was, it took about 2 months, 2.5 months, people were at home. And then when workers resumed, the question was, should they go, in that year, should they go for annual leave? in that particular year, should they go for annual leave?
Yes, very pertinent.
Very pertinent.
Yeah.
Now, the employers needed to, or you need to be able to prepare yourself to match this. You have a pandemic on one side, even it is beyond everyone's control.
Exactly.
And by the way, in most cases, employment acts don't have those provisions talking about those unforeseen events. Yes. In most cases, because normally those ones we see them in contract, agreements. Yes. But when it comes to the employment contracts, we don't have those clauses. So now here we are. I've been two months away. Can I be entitled to annual leave? So what other employers are doing that during that period we are away, you apply. Now it's forced leave, ideally.
Yes.
So we are seeing situations of forced leave. You have to be on leave. The moment you go into lockdown, you have to be on leave, ideally.
Yeah.
And yet, this right to leave, when you look at the law, it's telling you, it accrues.
Yes.
This right to leave accrues to you. Every after 3 months, you get. Every after 3 months, you get. We expect that you go and rest. But here, at the beginning of the year, you have to go and be on your annual leave.
And normally, I think the practice in Uganda, people want to take leave when they're going to do a project or to rest.
Yes.
Now you're being just told, go.
You go. And yet in most cases, workplaces do not have leaves like a study leave.
Yes.
So if you're studying, normally people use their annual leave to go and do exams and all that.
Yes.
But here you are, the employer is saying, all of you fill in annual leave forms. Because you're at home and you are not working. So for us to be able to pay you and what, when you come back, no going.
And the employer has a valid point, no?
Exactly, has a valid point on the other side.
Yes.
But also, how about this right when I choose to take my annual leave?
So where's the mix there? How
So
do we, what's the middle ground?
So the middle ground is you need to speak together as the employer and the employee. You should be able to speak because in most cases, employers do not consult, do not speak to the workers and say, this is what we are suggesting. And also you be fair. Because even you as a worker, you need to be fair to your employer. Because you're looking at the situation, they are paying your salary and you're not working. Isn't it only fair that at least you take off some of your days?
Leave, yeah.
And if you have such a time when you need leave, then bring it the notice of your employer and say, okay, that is a valid thing. But look, I was setting to have 5 days of my annual leave to do my exams around this time. So it may be your employer will also have it at the back of the mind that yes, this condition is, no one has control over it, and yet you already have this plan, so that you are able to have a middle, sort of like a middle ground.
Lydia, that's a very fascinating point, because I know leave is also a slightly controversial issue which has been abused to some extent by many employers in the country. But I think it's an important point for us to go for a break, so that when we come back, we'll pick on how far we've come as a country, what did we do to deal with the challenges posed by COVID-19 on employment rights. So let's go for a quick break. We'll be right back. You are watching You and the Law, the COVID edition here on House of Talent Television. My name is Jonathan Ochom, and today we're discussing the impacts of COVID-19 on employment and labor rights in Uganda. And we're privileged to have Ms. Lydia Bwite from the Platform for Labor Action. Lydia, welcome back from the break.
Thank you.
So you left at the point when we're discussing this controversial issue of leave. I know it's a topic perhaps for another day, but we need to sort of have a deep dive then into what government has done, what initiatives have been put in place, and what your assessment of those initiatives is in the context of protecting employment rights during the COVID-19 pandemic. Because, as you know, these are human rights issues, and governments, have core obligations in this. So, first of all, what did the government of Uganda do to ensure that workers are protected in this period? And then I'll ask you, do you think it worked? Are there areas of improvement?
Yeah.
Over to you.
Thank you so much. At the beginning of the first, when COVID had just come, we saw a pronouncement from the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development,
Yes.
Calling upon employers to exercise humility.
Employers?
Yes,
Okay.
exercise humility during this period, because it was no one's fault, that is number one. But also, they sort of imply that if you are to terminate, please terminate within the right procedures. Now, because of this, and when we ended, I was telling you just a quick effect of this, we have seen very unfair terminations during this period. And yet, the government called upon employers to terminate using the right procedures of whether if you're supposed to give notice, you are supposed to give that notice before you terminate someone.
Yes.
So that pronouncement was there. And not to try to abuse workers, right? It was there. But also we see that the government came up with a law, I think it's the regulation or a supplementary something, on the public Public Health Act, there is a supplementary, I think like a regulation,
Yes.
control COVID-19.
Yeah.
So that law requires that every Ugandan must wear a mask as long as you're out of your home.
Yes.
That is what. Now, how does that impact on the workplace here?
Yes.
Is it the duty of the employer to provide the masks, or is it that the employee should come with their mask? So some workers have gone on to report cases and say
Yes.
that, you know, my employer has not given me, and the employer is saying, no, you're going to be terminated because you're not wearing a mask. And they have a right, I mean, they have a point on one side. We have also seen vaccination coming through. Now, government has put in place a vaccination that, you know, for us to protect, which is the right thing,
Yes.
for us to protect ourselves from this particular epidemic that has come, we need to vaccinate. And I totally agree with the government. But you see, what has happened? They're telling some workers, if you're not vaccinated, don't come
Don't
at work.
come.
But what happens when I have lined up for that vaccine, well knowing that as a country I've been struggling to get this vaccine? Are you terminating me? But because, you know, you've said if you're not yet vaccinated, don't come to work. Is that termination or not? So when we are going back, I think in terms of reopening, what the government failed to do is to also make it very clear, yes, when should it be that a person who has not been vaccinated should not access a public place? That the government has not been very clear, because some employers are using it or they are abusing this particular situation. Because we know very well that we've been struggling as a country to access vaccines.
Yeah.
And when you say if you've not been, we saw letters coming through and say if you've not been vaccinated, please do not report to work. So what does that mean? It means that there is lack of communication between the government programs or the action the government is taking in terms of ensuring that we have vaccine as a country vis-a-vis the employer's action. So we need that to come out. We saw government, of course, coming through with the Economic Recovery Fund.
Yes.
That went through the Uganda Development Bank.
Yes.
And it was targeting, of course, to liquidify these small businesses, well knowing that they're the engines of the economy. And of course, also we know that those small businesses employ, you know, millions and millions of people. So that was supposed to ensure that now this worker who lost a job because of COVID-19, you know, he's back to work. But you see, there have also been challenges in accessibility to this particular Economic Recovery Fund.
Yes.
Equitability also has not been has been an issue around this particular issue. So we have seen even still small companies or the small and medium companies still not accessing this fund, and not their inability to access directly impacts on the workers at the end of the day. So we continue in that particular angle. And also there is an issue that we need to just talk about, the whole issue of now employers are also using this opportunity to abuse workers' rights. You know, if you say you're not going to do it, Jonathan, there is 1,000 outside that door just waiting to take your position.
Exactly.
So everyone, you're willing even to compromise on your right. Why? Because there are no jobs. And the employers are using that as their road on. In terms of resolving issues, even an employer who is able to pay off 200,000 says that there is no money. And can go to the court and say, I'll pay 20,000.
Yes.
You know.
There was this issue around NSSF. I'm sure there was an initiative around amending the law to allow people, you know, access some of their savings because of the pandemic.
True.
I don't know if you,
yes.
if that worked as an intervention.
It did not work as an intervention. Allow amending the law and then people being able to access. No. In terms of midterm access to NSSF, as Platform for Labour Action, we introduced it. We worked with members of parliament to introduce it in the bill. And our argument was, you know, like you've seen it in the news, that, you know, let people at least access maybe at 40 or something. Or when there's this bad calamity that cannot allow people to work, ideally. But I think that we are still in the other way of thinking that social protection or is for the old age, you understand, not covering all. So even when the bill that was passed by Parliament went before the President again has sent it back, of course, with his comments on the same.
So Lydia, we need to, as we sort of come to the end, we need to look to the future. the worst case scenario, we could find ourselves in a similar situation in 5 or 10 years.
True.
And assuming Lydia is the new, Minister of Gender, Labor and Social Development, or the PS in the ministry or whatever, what could be those points that you would push and say, as a country, this is how we should prepare for something of this magnitude? It may not be a perfect blueprint, but what are those ideas that should flaunt around, saying, if we find ourselves in a similar situation, these are my recommendations, or that PLA recommendation on how, you think that the government should protect the rights of workers in a pandemic or a similar situation in future. Worst case scenario can happen.
And indeed it will come. That is a given.
I don't want to be the one to predict
True,
it.
we hope that it will not come, but even this that we are going through right now, it was predicted that it will come. So we need to prepare better. If I was in that position that you have, envisioned at that point in time, one thing is that the law on NSSF need to be strengthened.
Okay.
You see, social protection is not only for the old age. Why do you need to strengthen the social protection side of it, especially like NSSF? Why? Because if, let's say, imagine we had a withdrawal benefit of unemployment, a certain percentage that in instances of calamity, where certain sectors are unable to work for a certain period of time, okay? Then this worker, the fund should be able to pay them a monthly wage, that goes into this person, like at least either to pay them that 10% or to pay them 5% their contribution to what? The NSSF, whichever it may be. Why? That way, workers would maintain their jobs. The employer would have no reason to terminate. Idea. Why? Because this employee is being covered during that period when even you as an employee, you are unable, to make ends meet. You're just struggling to stay afloat. This employee is being covered by this saving that you've been making, both of you. Remember, both of you are making those contributions. So it is at such a time when they should matter most. That way you are protecting the job security for the workers, that when these sectors are able to resume work, then you just go back.
People pick on from there.
Yeah, they will pick on from there, and you don't have to lose your job, because what do you lose as an employer if the other person is covering this particular person for that period? That will be very, very interesting. I think the other thing I would do in that particular area, which even actually I wanted to start a campaign on that time, and I remember even Mr. Byaruhanga also proposed it. Byaruhanga is the
the NSSF
MD.
Yes.
He says instead of asking for NSSF,
Byaruhanga.
Yes, Byaruhanga, yes. Asking NSSF to give you part of your savings, why don't you workers or employees tell URA to stop collecting pay for that period? No, by the way, when I looked at it, it was a fair argument, because employers are struggling to make ends meet. I'm also struggling to make ends meet. We say, are we in lockdown for how many months? 2 months? People are not working? Okay, maybe reduce. Okay, maybe you may not take it away completely, but you can reduce. Let's say maybe if it's 30%, maybe you only pay 20%. We answer that 10% should be able to help you to cover other aspects.
But
that will also be
that payee is for for the government to be able to fulfill on most of the obligations it has. So
that's why we should share it during that period only. When it is over, we go back.
Okay.
But the other recommendation I would actually make is around, generally, it just goes back, because the ministry you have envisioned me in is that covers issues of social protection.
Yes.
Generally, to prepare better, to have a systematic social protection system that really covers for such for such comings that we
how would that work? What do you mean market protection systems?
A very comprehensive one, because right now our system, we have the SAGE, where cash they give you 25,000.
SAGE is the social action,
the senior citizens grant.
Yes.
Where the old people get 20,000 shillings
per month. Yeah.
Okay, and then that's the only cash money that we are seeing. Now, if you have a system, the system looks at the different vulnerabilities that affect this individual.
Yes.
Because you may resolve my problem of money, but you not resolve my problem of health.
Yes.
So we need to strengthen our social protection systems. They should be comprehensive enough to resolve Lydia's problems as an individual, not as money, because that's just one need. Money is just only one need. That way, if you actually, in terms of investment, we just need to invest around that area, because then the workers will not have need. We will not be in this saga where employers are now, they're the bosses, they're everything. They have become more bosses than ever before, ideally.
I mean, Lydia, those are brilliant ideas, but I'm getting worried about, the practicalities, because, I mean, we're 42 million, or even there, I don't know how many workers or employees we have in the country. So I'm wondering, on a practical level,
yes,
how would this honestly come out? Because we have more pressing needs in this country. We provide security, there's education, there's everything else that government is dealing with. I'm just wondering,
how will that
are we not putting a lot of is that a government mandate?
Yeah, true. You see, social protection doesn't only look at the money. You should look at the education, because Lydia needs education.
Yes.
Look at health. Lydia needs health. Look at what I'm saying is that the government should be able to properly coordinate or plan for this individual chronologically, that system, that the health ministry contributes, that the Ministry of Gender, they are speaking, that the education ministry, they are speaking, that at every corner we are actually speaking together. Because money they're in those different ministries, because it will not only be money for this, it's not different ministries. And yes, we have priorities of security, which I don't think that we are at war. Maybe we are at war, but we need to plan better in terms of planning better, but also to the workers themselves. I think also we have learned something.
Yes.
Let's save. Now that is not from legal perspective,
right,
but me being human in me, that
yes,
let us save something,
yeah,
even if it is 20,000 every month. Save, because you just never know when you will need it. It's very important. Save. Let us save.
For a rainy day.
For a rainy day is very, very important. So the employers, how are our systems ready for these? Were they even ready, or even are they ready even up to now? Because there are those that, yes, we have the pandemic here, but still the systems are not what?
Yeah.
They have not been built, to take up still such. For example, if I may ask, have you insured yourself? What if your worker acquired or contracted COVID-19? And indeed, we see that because of the negligence at the workplaces, that is how the person contracted it. And then we trace back and it's still the employer.
Yes.
Are you ready to be able to meet this liability? Yeah, the government came out and said the treatment for COVID-19 is their government responsibility.
Yes.
But we saw people fighting. We saw people, I heard on the news, members of parliament saying that private hospitals were even taking people's land titles, to treat COVID-19.
Yeah.
But are we ready as the employer?
Yeah.
Have you insured? Have you revised issues around work from home?
Yes.
Have you, the employer, included or incorporated issues of work from home? Because now the home has become a workplace.
Yeah.
Jonathan, I wonder if I ended myself from home when I'm working on a computer, whether I should ask for workers' compensation.
And then on a Zoom call and the baby comes.
And then it becomes so it's very challenging. Are we giving the workers the tools they need to work from home?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing demanding me from work from home. But Jonathan, when I don't even own a laptop.
Yeah.
My employee don't have a laptop. So how do we deliver from
And
home?
our data costs in the country.
Data costs in the country are high.
Yeah.
We're even having a tax apparently. I didn't know until when I was told so. So we need to be ready as a country, as employers. We need to be ready. We need to revise our human resource manuals to take into consideration such happenings that may come at any given point. But also looking at the new phenomenon is that a home as our place. Yes.
Okay. I mean, Lydia, so many things to talk about, but I think viewers, the most important point for me from Lydia, one, besides your employer, you need to prepare yourself. Do a bit of savings. She mentioned another one of the importance of marrying if you want to enjoy paternity leave, because you may not get it if the person is just, without legal status. But more importantly, Lydia has emphasized the need for government to, regulate the employment sector, put in place safeguards to ensure that when we find ourselves in such a situation again, we have a well thought out plan that can enable the country to protect the rights of its workers, because, like you say, labor is a factor of production besides land and capital, and without labor, there's nothing. The economy is dead. With that, viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of You and the Law. I've been your host, Jonathan Ochom, and I've been with Lydia Buite from the Platform for Labor Action. Special shouts to our sponsors, Legal Hub Uganda and I4C Africa Hub, for putting this together. Until next time, see you.
Pleasure to present to you
KCCA has taken a number of steps to address this sanitation challenge, which include, but not limited to the following: the setup,
Welcome to Slam Dunk Basketball Talk.
A wise man once said, "The future has a name, and its name is hope. A tiny flicker of light that feeds on hope is enough to shatter any shield of darkness." At Mandulus, we really believe.
Are you a leader? Do you know what leadership is? Do you understand change management or even transformation? What are you doing to change your life? A lot of people don't know what to do and how to do it, and how to go about the situation they find themselves in. And quite often, so many people are confused. But on the CEO bench, we strive to give you opportunity to be able to learn from those who are doing it well, those who have done it before, those who are doing it, those who are on the rise to the top, and those already on the top, and as well as those who are on the top coming down. This is the CEO Bench. My name is Eddie Okila and it's a Friday. Welcome to the CEO Bench. Of course, this week we bring you a very interesting guest, the third female on the show, and we will be talking leadership, change management and transformation. And of course, in today's rapidly changing world, learning to of course lead and design our organization to read the turbulence of time that comes with leadership challenges and change management is key in us making proper decisions that will take our organization forward, but also to allow us, manage impact of what we're trying to do. So today on the show, this program brings you Francis Birungi Odong, who is an executive director of Ukobak. I'm yet to understand how to pronounce the entire word from her, but Francis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine, I'm very well, thank you.
And welcome to the CEO Bench.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So, in a nutshell, who is Francis?
So, who is Francis? So, Francis is Francis Birungi Odong, as you said. I am, what should I say? I work in Ukobak, like you said. Ukobak in full, it's a mouthful indeed. It's Uganda Community-Based Association for Women and Children's Welfare. I am married to one man. We have 4 children. I was born in Kenya, but I'm Ugandan. My parents were exiled in Kenya for a period of time. So we are a family of 7. And 6 of us were born in Kenya, and then we moved back to Uganda. So I have been partly raised in Kenya and partly raised in Uganda. So basically, that's who I am. I don't know if that's sufficient.
Yes. It's always difficult for people to say who they are and what they stand for.
Yes.
So Francis, welcome to the CEO Bench. We want to know more about you as an individual. How did you end up where you are in what you're doing today? Since you said you were born in Kenya because your parents were exiled in Kenya, why did you choose not to stay in Kenya than to return to Uganda and to end up to what you're doing today?
Yeah. Really, that was not my choice. That was my parents' choice. I'm sure them living in Kenya was not by choice. It was because of the circumstances at that time. And so when everything settled down, they chose to return to Uganda, and we were taken to schools in Uganda. Unfortunately, when I came into Uganda, when we came back as a family, I only spoke Swahili. I couldn't speak anything else. So getting into school, it was very difficult because, of course, in Uganda, we don't speak Swahili. It was very difficult to speak, to speak English, to speak the local languages in Uganda. So I had to go backwards. So many times in the classes, as I was progressing, I was usually the older one in the class because I had to go back, a number of steps. But it was okay. Somehow I was fitting in. Did my primary school here in a school called Nsube. Then from there, I went to Tororo Girls School for secondary. Finished my secondary, went to Green Hill, did my HSC, then went to university. Where I did a first degree And while doing actually when I was in my senior 6 vacation, I asked my mom that I wanted to do some voluntary work. I wanted to, to do something other than sitting at home. So she was, at that time, she was working with a non-government organization as well called Forward. And I was taken in as an intern. So I worked there. It really kind of gave me the first experience of working in a civil society organization. They were focusing on work, supporting women to participate in leadership positions and so forth. So it was very intriguing at that age, but it was not yet my time to really, work. I wasn't very sure, but I was trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. And for me, it was very empowering seeing what was happening in this organization. And when I went to university, I did social sciences, majoring in sociology. So I think my choice for the university for the course that I took was because of what I saw that was happening in this organization. So I did my sociology course, finished 3 years, and after school I told, again I had a conversation with my parents and told them, you know what, I feel like I want to do the work that I did when I was doing my voluntary work. So do you think you can help to talk to your peers, because they were doing that? My father was in politics, but my mother was doing civil society work. And at that point, I was taken in UCOBAC. Yes. As an intern. Yes, so it was immediately after university that I joined UCOBAC as an intern. And I started, doing simple work. I was really doing support work in the organization. But I was very eager to learn about what they were doing. It was very interesting, but also the kind of work that they were doing, working with women and children. I thought that was something that was very powerful. I moved to the field with the staff that were in UCOBAC at that time, and did, I would do the support work of giving out paper or serving tea or serving, anything that I could be, asked to do. But in the process, I always sat in the classes for the women and the children, and I would look at how the staff were impacting on these lives. It was very interesting to see how people's lives were transforming, from nothing to something. So really, it built, it built my interest. But also I felt that I wanted to know more about how I can contribute in a more meaningful way in this sector.
Wow.
Yes, so I worked there as an intern for some time, and I didn't feel like I wanted to do anything else. To me, because I had arrived, if I should say.
So basically your mind was corrupted, and this is where I'm going to be.
Yes, I had arrived at that point, because really for me what was very important to me was transformation, was seeing lives of people changing from nothing to something. And the fact that in this environment was showing me that it is possible to contribute in one way or another to change an individual's life. So it exposed me. I came from a background, my parents, I wouldn't say it was a very poor family, so I had not got that exposure. So working in this environment really showed me the reality of the world. I came to see that actually majority of Ugandans were living in poverty, were vulnerable and needed support. So for me, it was fulfilling to work in this organization, and that is how I started my career in UCOBAC.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, if you're joining the CEO bench, that right there is getting you into what we call knowing somebody personally, and of course getting into their life. That is Frances is the executive director of UCOBAC, and she's on the CEO bench. If you're joining us from anywhere in the world, we're live on Twitter, we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, and House of Time /Facebook. Please tell your neighbor and tap your cousins, and this story is going to be a very interesting one. As well as on Twitter, wherever you are, tweet, show, share, retweet, and make sure everybody gets to know what is happening. Frances, I want to just take you straight to this. And in today's changing world, it's rapidly changing world. Learning to lead and design our organization to read the turbulence of time creatively is critical to our ability to make positive impact. And this television program is about those that are at the top of doing that, or those that are rising up to the top of doing that. And the focus is on transformational change and the implications for the individuals who are in that space as leaders, or in their organizations, or in the culture of the organization, or in our society, depending on what structure that we're in. Your story that you have given in the intro of this interview is very important. But we want to know something more specifically, lining to your organization, which is civil society today. Give us a sneak peek of the life of a woman in that space.
Oh, that's a very good question. The life of a woman in this space is just the same as the life of a woman in any other space. It's not an easy space, especially when it comes to leadership, and when it comes to influencing decisions and also influencing processes in any other institution. So it is not an easy space for a woman. It is a space where a woman has to do something extra or do something more to be able to prove that they are able to do what they should be doing. So I would say that it's the same. It's very competitive. Many times we see that in many civil society organizations, still we find them to be male-headed, and we're having many women, many girls taking up leadership roles in civil society organizations, but it's not an easy task. It's where we have to really prove ourselves that we can lead these organizations to greater heights. And there's a lot that is involved in the civil society organizations. There's leadership in itself, there's management of processes, there's management of the human resource, there's fundraising, there's research. It's a lot that needs to be done, and many times there is a feeling that is too much for a woman because she has other traditional roles that she needs to do as at home. So many times as people are looking for leaders in civil society organizations, the priority is usually given to men because of our society that feels that men have the time, men have the capacity, men have the ability to lead, to take this organization to greater heights. And women, there will be a problem. They will have to go to maternity leave. They have issues. They are too emotional. They have not done the courses that are good enough for leaders. They don't have time to go for extra learning, or to go for work outside Kampala because they have to tend to their children. So there's too much that society has tied around a woman. And it's true, we have these traditional roles that we have to do, but does not in any way mean that women cannot lead in these spaces. So it is really changing with time. As more women get into leadership positions, it's changing, and there is more appreciation that is coming towards women, because women have demonstrated, many women leaders in civil society organizations, like in any other institutions, have demonstrated that they are able to excel, to move these organizations to greater heights. So I think it's changing with time, but it's still very difficult for women to take on leadership positions.
Wow. Francis, I like the journey, and would want to ask you one more question just before we go into a break. The leadership journey and the little information about the organization you currently lead. You said you ended up there. Starting into the process of internship, and then luckily your mother ended up taking you there, and now you are in that space. We want to know more about this organization. What are the issues that you are working on as Yukobac at the moment? Having started there as a child.
Okay.
I would call you as a child because you are
Yes, I
young.
was a child. I was a child. At
Yeah,
that time,
yeah.
I was probably barely 20, maybe 19.
Yes.
A grown-up child, I should say. So the reason why I say my mother took me there, my mother was one of the founder members of this organization.
Yeah.
And she had been in politics before, and then later changed course and decided that she wanted to do something for women and children because that's her passion. So she started this organization. And I admired her for a long time. When I was little, when I was young, my mother used to do a lot of work around mobilizing women to participate in governance processes. And we tagged along as children at home when she went for trainings in communities. And I admired the way she spoke to people, the way she impacted lives. So when she started this civil society organization, this NGO, I asked her, can I come and work with you? Can I support you in this process? And she took me in, but didn't take me in. She was very strict because she gave me a lecture at the beginning and said, okay, I'm taking you in, but you're not any special. You're going to come in as an intern. You're going to make tea for the staff. You're going to to type. In those days, they would type. They would handwrite, and then they give you to type so that you can learn. And you're going to it will depend on you on whether you will get a job or not, because I don't hire. I have a board that hires and fires. Yeah. So I said, okay, I'll take it on. And many times people think that because this was an organization that was started by mother, that it was easy for me. Yeah. It was actually more difficult for me because I had to prove myself beyond. I had to prove to her. I also had to prove to the board that I can be, I can work here. I am not taking advantage of this. I can do my best. I can contribute to this process. So so I got into this organization, and one thing that I did is that I worked hard. I worked hard at that time with the roles that I was given. I did them to the best that I could do. If it was typing something or going to support staff in the field, I did my best. I did not at any one time feel like, oh, I am someone's daughter, I am special. My mother is she's the founder member here. Yes. No, I did not have that at all. I worked hard, I proved myself. And when there was an opening for program officer, I put in my application. And I competed with many other people, and I was taken on as a program officer in the organization. And still, as a program officer, I worked hard. I delivered. Excellence is always something that I strive for. Yeah. So I worked hard, I delivered, I proved myself. I moved the organization to the level where I felt it should be at that level as a program officer. Yeah. And I have moved in this organization from one level to another. I started off as an intern. I became a project officer. I became a program officer, and now I am the CEO. So it has been growth within the organization that has not been handed to me, but I have worked hard for it. Yeah. I have had to prove myself, and and I think really what I can say around that is that many times when girls or people are given opportunities in the organization, we take things for granted and don't put in a lot of effort to make sure that we prove ourselves and grow our careers within that organization, or move the organization from one level to another. And for me, that's what I did differently, and that is how I've been able to reach where I am.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was not like come here, hand it over a silver plate, and receive it, go with it.
No, it's been really hard work. Yukobac is actually governed by a board. So even if we had we had other CEOs, they saw the work that I was doing in this organization. I was a young girl, but I was working hard. I was striving to learn, went back to school, did my master's degree. I got a master's degree in human rights, came back and tried as much as possible to apply what I had learned. And I think that demonstration of hard work and dedication has really been something that has moved me from one level to another, to a level where I am now a leader in this organization, where I started as an intern.
Wow.
Yes.
Out of curiosity, Francis, why did you choose your mother's path, not your father's path, for being a politician? Why?
Well,
why not the politician in your father?
Yes, I know. I've had that question a number of times, and actually some people have always thought that probably I should have taken the political side. But for me, the passion that I have to, like I said in the beginning, the passion that I have to serve communities, underprivileged communities, marginalized sections of the community, for me that is closer to my heart. Yeah. And I think politics is not a bad thing to do. My father did it well. Many politicians are doing it well, but it's not yet my time. Probably, I should say that. But what I'm doing right now is very satisfying. I am supporting women and girls because, as you know, our society looks down upon women and girls because it's a patriarchal society. Yeah. So for me, I use my experience to inspire girls, to inspire women to be better, to improve in their homes, to improve in their places of work, and to contribute meaningfully to the development of our country. And I feel for me that is also politics in itself. If we can support women to be able to participate in leadership positions in politics, that is politics itself.
Yes. Wow, you've heard it from Francis right there. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, the CEO bench will continue the discussion with Francis, and of course we'll be asking Francis more on the leadership, change management and transformation, which is what this show really stands for. Stay right there. We'll be right back after the break. On this show, we brought you the former executive director of KCCA, Andrew Chitaka. You've had a beautiful story coming from him. And we brought you a business philanthropist and, of course, a business mind trainer. Dr. Jinpo Olowo was here on the show, as well as, Tony Toa. We brought you Mona Faces. But this particular show today brought you the person with the heaviest vote, the fourth female on the show, Santa Nzo. Welcome back to the program.
It's a pleasure. And Eddie, just before you ask me, I just want to thank you for using your huge platform to educate, to inspire and motivate,
Thank you,
others.
Thank you,
and
Santa.
also for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Santa.
Thank you.
In fact, we didn't give you the opportunity. We have no power to give you the opportunity. Those who you serve, who have interacted with your brand, who have interacted with you as an individual, are the very same people who said, we want to see Santa Nzo, and they voted you overwhelmingly. And so we said, our job is to provide the opportunity and the platform for you to be here. And in so doing, we are happy that you are here and you're able to answer some of these questions. So we want to say thank you everybody out there who voted Santa Nzo to come on the show. And I would like to say thank you to my sister from another mother, who is the assistant professor for design communication in Washington University, Professor Penny Nachayo. One of the people who follow what you do.
Oh.
Yes, Daniel Engole, all the way in the US, Soul Reverend, if you remember him.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and Chigola Mwendo, all the way in Germany. Edwin is a resident panelist of Coffee at Endiro. We drink coffee together, yes, so from the coffee place.
Thank you.
So there are quite a number of people, and my wife, who is at home, who follows you quite a bit. So there are a number of people who voted for you. Unfortunately, we cannot pronounce or rather list all their names out, but we want to say thank you very much for them.
Thank
and
you.
Santa, welcome back to the program. We want to dive straight into the question of change management. Santa, change management is a very systematic approach all through your life and your journey as an MD of Arapapa. I hope I've gotten this time right.
Arapapa.
Arapapa. Yes. It's very key. It's tagged and pegged on change management. You are managing change from every angle of your movement to where you are. And we've learned quite a bit in that journey. But I want to take you straight to change management, which is a systematic approach to dealing with transition. The transformation of things, you're transiting from one end to the next end. You've told us the story of how you started as a group. How did you become alone in the group? Are you still with the rest of the group together? You know, and of course, that's a transformation, that's a change, that's a transition of there, of course. And in an organization, we will call it the transformation of an organization's goals, processes, as well as the technologies that they use to manage the process. The purposes of change is normally to implement the strategies, and of course, to effect the image and controlling the change within the environment. Two things often happen when we're doing change management. Number one, we prepare the change. Number two, we craft the vision and plan for the change, which you have stated quite clearly. And then three, we implement the change. What was the journey like in change management? There are millions of people out there, billions of people even, who don't know how to leave one spot of comfort to the next. You are on the runway. You come from an affluent background, okay? You have come from the upper echelon of university. From the way you speak and express yourself, it's quite clear that your parents were able to take you through. And you present a different mindset of people, not traditionally how girls are always looked at. But this one is a much more straightforward person, level-headed person. How were you able to pull yourself through this? If you would share that journey with so many people who may not get the opportunity, but also the girls who don't know how to move from point A to point B. Those you started with are now seeing you and saying, look at Santa. I wish I had stayed the path, or I wish I've learned something from Santa. The interaction with the international community. Let's dive it from there. Change management.
Wow, you just took me through very, I have had to relive my years as a rapapa right from the start.
Yes.
And but first, let me correct you. I was born, yes, with enough. That is in the mid rule of Idi Amin.
Yes.
But my family lost all of that, and so we had to leave these plush environments. And I am a former refugee, because then Dad was arrested. You know how it was. You were educated those days. That was enough reason to throw you behind the bars. And my dad was arrested, brought to Kampala. Mommy and the rest of us were banished to the village. And the politics of revenge took over. Then government of Idi Amin was overthrown, and the Obote government came in, and there was need to revenge and teach the West Nilers, who, by the way, were not part of the mess that had been created. Yeah. We were kicked out of our homes. Our homes were burnt to the ground. This girl born in, Mulago Hospital then was a 5-star experience. And my mom had me there, and she said, Santa, wow, because she had had some in Moyo. Yeah. But by the time Santa was born, the family was in Kampala. Yeah. But all of these luxuries that Santa was known for, Santa was a girl of, I had milk till I was 5 years. I was just very demanding as a child, and my father made sure. My mom said, no, she has to be like everybody else. We don't have it, we don't, so sort yourself. And Daddy
Are you
would
the last
say,
born?
No. I'm in the
you
middle. You
have the last born tendencies. Yes,
no,
yes.
I'm in the middle, because in the middle, if you don't make yourself hard.
Yeah, or you never, yes. Yes.
And the firstborn was doing everything right. The last born does everything right. Now there's this one in the middle.
Completely, yes.
excuse me, so when mommy would say, I'm not dealing with this. She has children of her own, she has extended family to look after, and then there's daddy. She said, I'm not dealing with this one, but daddy always came back home, fed me, made sure I had my milk, you know. But this poor girl ends up as a refugee in Southern Sudan, where even basic running water from the taps in Kampala are not available. So I didn't have it easy growing up. Yes, I was born in it, but we lost it all. And all of our siblings, parents, my mom, daddy was arrested, which means it was as grim and beaten to near death.
Yeah.
But I was a refugee in Southern Sudan. So I come back from Southern Sudan as a malnutrited, impoverished little girl back to Kampala. And so the journey begins again. And so I just wanted to correct that. No, I didn't have an affluent background, but yes.
You were born in it, so
yeah, but
yes, but losing it along the way is part of the change management.
Yes.
Which I'm lacking right now, and everybody watching the show, that's the part we're looking for. How do you manage that change? The turnaround situation in your life to the refugee camp and now to Santa, who is interacting with the world.
I also, again, I'll go back to my parents and thank them, because for mommy, she was also in this comfort. And now she's a single mother in Southern Sudan with all these children. By then, I think we were 6. So, you know, my mom had to forget that she was a teacher by profession, that she was this wife that had everything that she needed. She now had to dig other people's gardens. So I saw the transformation mommy went through. So my mom, just like me or my parents, my dad, when he rode in the, you know, UG, Mercedes, sleek black Mercedes Benzes, behaved the same way when later he had to take a bus, a public bus with chickens, fish, whatever, from Moyo to Kampala. He would still be the same father I knew, with the same dignity. And so I watched my parents lose it all, gain it all, lose it all over, but never stop to give and share whatever they had. So just to paint a clear picture, that even when we came back to Kampala, it was struggle again to get up. And then we were all right, we went through school, but then again, let me correct you, I am yet to get a university degree. So before my parents, I still owe them, remember, character, discipline, academics. Yeah, I still have to, you know, and I owe it to them, but also now to myself to get my papers in order. Although luckily for me, I called a university. I called 2 universities, one in Europe, another in the US, and I said, I am enrolling. I want to do this at a degree level. And they learned through my profile and said, what? Say, you have achieved everything with
exactly, that's my point. So why would you be looking for it now?
I've been offered a mastery PhD. So because of my 20 years experience and the things that I've gone through, and so now I may have to forego the much.
Talked about.
She talked about and demanded bachelorette. And when I finally go back to school, I am going to be rated at the level of mastery that I have earned in this sector. And yes, so I don't want nobody to get discouraged that because they do not have a degree or, you know, the highest standard of learning or schooling, even with a P7 certificate, one can still make it. I went, yes, up to senior 6. I did train as a fashion designer, have a diploma there. But for me to be everything that I am, there's a wealth of expertise and excellence that is not taught in school. It's taught at home. You get educated, very academic in school, but then life experiences, the experiences we go through day to day, give us the wealth of knowledge and wisdom that we need to actually make it in life. So don't think that because you don't have a degree, or that no, a degree is actually nothing if you do not have the required value systems of successful enterprise.
Wow. Wow. That already, let's just take a moment to just take in that one, Santa. I think that on the change management, on a scale of 1 to 10, to me, you've already scored 9, if not 10, because a lot of people don't come out very clearly to talk about this, because they fear that there will be stigmatization happening or will come to them. But to see where you are now and what you're talking about now, those two are completely a mismatch. I don't even think you should be thinking of it now anyway.
Well, nobody, let me tell you this, nobody can stigmatize me or look down on me because of a lack of a degree, because before they can do that, they have to beat me at my game, across the board, not just design, across the board. And so I am very confident in my abilities and also in the lack of my abilities. I know what I'm lacking and I know what to do to get it. So we have to be very careful not to let nobody talk us down. The Christ we follow as a Christian that I follow, I don't see a master's or a degree anywhere. And yet, for us to get to wherever we want to go, he is the path. Be it business, be it politics, be it academia or a religious calling, you've got to go through Christ to get there if you're Christian.
Wow.
And so we are way beyond material attachments. So I can't be graded in that area. And by the way, I mark university students. I do mark university students.
I don't think that you need anybody to give you a battery for you to be approved, because I think you're way, way beyond the grade itself.
Thank you. But also, I must add that this should not be taken to think that, oh, I can make it, I don't have to go to school. I preach to parents that bring their children, because as it is now, you find that the person that wants to be the next Tarapapa is in primary. With General Katumba Wamala, I was privileged to be invited with him to mentor students of Aga Khan. And I'll tell you, I was shocked that kids as young as 7 and they want to be the next Tarapapa.
12, they're already achieving it.
And I'm telling them that, I'm telling parents that bring them to me, no doubt, when I'm ready. However, I want them to go through all the grades of education, all the levels of education to the highest, if they have the opportunity. I didn't get my bachelor's degree at the time because I chose, against my parents' will, to not go to Makerere University. Daddy would have paid to the last coin of his pension to ensure that Santa gets a degree, but I said that it's a waste. I want fashion. So I'm very happy.
I just want to hear, when you told your father, this is what I want to do, Daddy, I want to go into fashion, what was his words? I know your mom, you are two different paths when you talked about that. Fashion, from what I hear, being an academician and being a teacher, I'm sure that was not something that she wanted to hear. But I just want to hear, when you told your daddy or your father that this is not what I want to do, what did he say?
My dad is a man of very few words.
You're just about to help a child who is struggling with the same thing with the father or with the mother. The skill sets are completely designed to this. The gifting God has given are completely this, but the parents are saying this is where you're going. I once, Santa, even before you answer that, I talked to a 12-year-old girl, and she said, my mom is everything to me. She's good. She always taught us to be who we want to be and everything. And she always tells me that I can do whatever I want to do. But then sometimes I get confused when she tells me that I have to be a doctor. So the young girl told me, so I don't know whether she wants me to do what she wants or Or she wants me to do what she is taught me to be, which is to be what I want to be. So I'm confused. So it's on that background that I actually asked this question to help that girl, that boy, that child out there who wants to be something else but don't know how to communicate with the parents, and how the response from the parents borrowing from you will help them to change and to make the right footing to the next step.
Again, it starts on your knees. Talk to God about your desires. I want to, at this point, thank so much one of my godfathers, or actually my godfather, Dr. James Magara, for and everything good that I am. May he get the blessings, and for any mistake I've made, please exclude him, because
yes,
that has been on my own account.
Yeah.
If I was to follow the path,
yeah,
I would be a much better person. But
Yeah.
let me simply say that he told me to talk to God. Just tell God what it is you want, and if it is within His purposes for you, you will be it.
Yeah.
So to that young girl and young boy, talk to God. Humble up. And don't fear, don't get also religious and, first go, clean up, what? Just get in a corner. Like Christ says, close yourself in a closet. Pull yourself away from the crowd, and that crowd can be your lovely mama,
Yeah.
it could be your daddy, but, your best friend. Pull away from them. Go into the closet. Tell God what it is you want in your heart. I did that amidst my chaotic life of a teenager. I did that. And I can tell you that Daddy in heaven, God listened. Because at that time, I was making this decision. God had nicely moved out my mom out of the equation in Kampala.
Yes.
Took her back to the village where she was so thrilled
Yeah.
to take up more children,
Yes.
younger than Santa, and
Yeah.
groom them, to grow her orchard,
Forgotten about Santa.
She didn't forget about me. Her
Forgotten
ears
you
were
were-
on the ground.
Yes.
But,
what is she doing?
but I thank God
Yeah, yeah.
that my mom was not in Kampala, because I'm telling you that she went on national TV, on NTV, to
Yeah.
apologize.
Yes.
And to advise parents.
Yeah.
I think about a few years ago,
Yeah.
she was called and she had to go and apologize and say, I am sorry. But if Mom had been in Kampala, I'm telling you, she would have beaten me. Would have beaten this out of me.
Wow.
You had to be undisciplined for her. Don't forget, she also had a bit of her upbringing in the convent.
Yes.
She's very organized and very, even now when you go home, you
Yeah.
find her in a very ironed, beautiful top and dressed, well tucked in. She's very orderly and lives by the norm. Now, that happened. Mommy was taken out of the equation, even Daddy. But when I told Daddy what I wanted to do, he also wasn't here. But his reaction was, he said, okay. But he was like,
Yes.
Santa is impossible to
Be
die,
successful.
to divert.
Yes.
Once her mind is set onto something.
Yes.
But I believe when he went quiet, he was talking to God as well, like, help my little girl. And so I then had to get a job with a little pocket money he had left me. It ran out, I had to find a job. And then I had to find my way in fashion college, which, by the way, even then was not even available in Kampala.
Yeah.
But there was Dolphin Fashion College, so I was led there. But let me simply say that you've got to be, I've said it so many times, but you've got to be a positive big head.
Yeah.
The parents, Mommy was doing that not because she didn't want me to pursue my goals, but she did it to protect me. To protect me, she wants the best. Every parent wants the best for their child. But you, the child, the onus is on you to prove to your parent that you're actually going to put your very best foot forward and try, as you may fail, to be a success story, whatever success would mean. Money, you know, achievements. For me, it wasn't money, because also that wasn't taught to me as a child. I'm just learning now that money is a good thing, and I should love money.
But it's not everything.
But, oh no, money is very important. Now that will be another topic. But I'm having to unlearn the very Catholic background I came from, to unlearn the teachings about wealth and money. Okay. Let me tell you, money is very important, and every child should know, without money, certain things can't happen. Dreams are gagged and stagnated, so money is very important. So I won't sit here and talk that talk of money is not. I've learned a lot at the age, at this level of maturity. I can assure you that every African parent must buy their little child that book, The Richest Man in Babylon. Let's start there. Let's learn to talk wealth. Let us learn to talk money in a very positive way.
Welcome to the CEO Bench, ladies and gentlemen from all across the world. My name is Eddie Okila, and of course the CEO Bench exists to bring you the stories of people who are on the top, doing it on the top, leading on the top, people who have been through change management, and of course are transforming lives, and they have transformed their own personal lives to reach there, as well as those who are headed to the top. What are their stories? What have they been through? What can we learn from them? Do they have some really interesting experiences to share with us? Yes, they do. And of course, on the CEO Bench this week, this morning, or this evening, or this afternoon, depending on which part of the world you are located, is the one and only the man who needs no introduction, the African youngest man on planet Earth that is doing great and amazing stuff. Been over to the creative industry, done that, is now thinking for different businesses at different levels. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my guest this morning, Bedford Buyungo, aka Professor in the Making. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you so much.
How have you been?
I'm great.
You have been overwhelmingly nominated to come back to the CEO Bench. Would you like to tell us why would these people overwhelmingly nominate you by over 30 votes to come back to the CEO Bench, yet you have been on the CEO Bench before?
I wouldn't know, but I appreciate them. They are in a better position to let you know. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Bedford, we want to just go straight to our interview this morning. And of course, I want you to just share with us a few of, the things, the journey, and of course, what you have been through, and what you're still going through as a person on the top. The CEO Bench is a very interesting, place to be. We look at things from a different perspective, and I want to just give you a small background to what the CEO Bench is about. One, we focused on individual people who are leaders and in position of leadership. The program, of course, is focused on discussion about leadership, change management, and transformation, both at individual level and as well as the corporation levels where you are, as well as the community where you live, and the nation where you lead or where you reside. All of us are leaders in our nations, but people often think that only people who are defined by political boundaries are the ones who are leading. But all of us are leaders at our levels, and it's important that we keep reminding people that even as a border man on the streets of Kampala or in the streets of any streets of the city anywhere in Africa, you are a leader, because the things you're doing at that level is leadership. How you change your life from a border person to becoming a taxi driver, to becoming a bus driver, to becoming a pilot is what we're calling change management at that level. But also, if you're moving from being a creative person at your level to becoming a creative thinker, to becoming a strategist, to becoming a research and developer person, and for being that person that think for brands and think for businesses and create things, that's change management. True. When we're looking at transformation, we look at the foray of moving from this one space to the next space to the next space is key for us going forward. And that is what the CEO bench exists for. And so this morning, I want to ask you this question, which I've asked you before.
Yeah.
If I am looking for a small and fast and quick definition of who Bedford Buyungo is, what would be your definition of who you are?
First, I identify as a Pan-Africanist who has passion for research and development.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm an entrepreneur, and I think in there has many things. When you talk about Pan-Africanism, it means you're pro-Africa, you're pro-African progress. When you talk about research and development, it has an element of research, it has an element of development, developing products or brands or whatever field you're applying R&D. And when you talk about entrepreneurship, still it speaks to something. And there is reason why those three things. There is reason for Pan-Africanism, there is reason for R&D, there is reason for entrepreneurship. Yeah. And for me, it is that I as a Pan-Africanist, I was like, the only way we can progress Africa is probably through the element of economics. So, yes, I know other elements work hand in hand, but yes, we've tried politics and people have played us. We've tried all other elements, even donor, funding, and we've not gotten to places we've gotten to. So I was like, why don't I get this craft, R&D craft, and be able now to birth products, of course with my marketing and brand knowledge, to birth brands from end to end and go compete in the world. Yeah. And I saw that as an opportunity to birth brands and compete on the global stage. Yeah. Like Andrew Rugasira says, he said that Africa needs needs trade, not aid. Yeah. So when you say Africa needs trade, not aid, it means that you need to put something on that table for the people to buy. There is a lot of things that work for you to be able to sell in the States, for you to be able to sell in Asia, for you to be able. But thank God that every region of the world, God has put something unique. So the avocado that I'm going to sell from Uganda is not the same as the one that someone I'm going to compete with from Asia has. So in a nutshell, and I'm reminding people who get confused of who I am, that I'm simple, a Pan-Africanist who has a passion for research and development and entrepreneurship.
Wow. Well, you now know more about Bedford Buyungo. He's more of a professor than just a simple man you know. Of course, if all the professors were as simple as him in their making, I think would go far. And of course, the last time he was here, he said that, I am a self-proclaimed professor. And of course, you can see from there that you don't have to have a definition beyond the boundaries to understand what he has just said and to believe with him. But I would like to welcome you to the CEO bench, and I would like to encourage you today to make this program as interactive as possible. Share with us what your comments are and even your kisses and disses. When we say kisses and disses, I mean, tell us we're doing very good. We will be able to take that feedback. And if you think we're not doing very well, tell us what you would want to see. And the CEO bench is here to make sure that you actually have that information. And now straight to our discussion, Bedford. I just want to take you through to a couple of things that people have been talking about.
Yeah.
You have been the newest CEO on the bench of your company. And by definition of a CEO is not just that you have too many. We often believe that to be at a CEO bench, you need to have many layers of system put in place or structures that put in place. And I'm saying, yes, that's true, but what about the CEO who still starts the company from scratch, gets it to a certain level, and start to cross the boundaries and moving to continents? And when you cross to the continent, you of course fully now become the CEO definition we're looking for. And you've been doing this from the Saint Africa. We've seen the brand cross the borders and become something of a development. You're working on another brand called the Voyage Africa, if I get the name very right.
African
Voyage, which is the boat building company. And the thinking is great. The motivation is great. We just want to start from there. Where do you draw your motivation to think like this from?
I partly tackled that in the first question. There's something called vision, and I think I talked about it last time we were here. Once you have a vision, then your picture is about 70% clear. The 30% I'll leave it to God. So when you have a clear picture, then the Mzungu or the white man says the end justifies the means. When I want to go to Kampala and I'm using public means, I behave differently from the man who is using public means from Kampala to Masaka. One is going far, one is going near. And by default, when you're seated in a taxi and you're going to Ntinda, the normal saying is Momasao. So you know that it's close, but because you're very clear where you're going, your behavior follows automatically. It means I don't need to greet my neighbor, because soon it's going to be the posture even changes. When I'm, for example, at the front seat, I'm looking around, and soon I say, conductor, Masao. But the guy going to Masaka or Kigali using Masaka Road, by default, the posture is going to change. The first thing you do is, how are you, because anything can happen along the way. So the vision is very important, and my vision is deeply linked to where Africa is going. And no one has come out to tell us about where Africa is going. The 54 countries have not sat, or African Union, and probably made it clear that Africa needs to be this, Africa needs to be that by this time. It might be there, big documents, but not in one statement that Africa needs to be this. So many of us Pan-Africanists, the doers, the talkers, the many Pan-Africanists, or people who are pro-Africa, everyone has their contribution to African progress. Now mine is deeply linked to African economic, African progress. And since I come from the brand world, marketing world, I decided that I will champion the global brands that are coming from Africa. I know many people have gone before me, but mine is to contribute to African brands and see them compete globally, because I know when the African brands are competing globally, that means jobs, that means many things, and that means good life, good health, many things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bedford, a lot of the nomination that came this time around to bring you back to the CEO bench were a number of people who started their companies. From the data we're seeing at the CEO bench here, a number of people who started their companies, and just in 2019, some of them had great aspirations. They had moved out from their jobs and started something else, and they were doing really great, and they had plans. The visions were clear, the missions were clear, and then the pandemic came from nowhere, and it is accounted for to have started somewhere in China, and nobody saw it making its way in in January or by December 2019 and January 2020, it arrived here. Most of us were expecting it to be here a little bit much later because China is really far away from Africa. But it made its way here quite faster and quicker. And a lot of these companies, a lot of these individuals that started these companies, that moved from their former employment to start these companies, are now facing a big challenge of even extinction and, you know, slipping back to employment. Some of them are really running mad. And talking about guys who started the company by employing from 10 to 15 to 20. I met one of them yesterday that says he employs 45 people from when he started, and now he's going to have to cut down everyone because the vision is not going where it's supposed to be. Pandemic has happened. How do we help such fellows move forward? How have you been able to do it? Because you've been in the same space, almost around the same time is when the Saint Africa comes, and you know it rolls out, and it's working. What would be the best advice to give from one, the background perspective of a marketer, brand developer, an advertiser, and now an entrepreneur, as well as you know, a Pan-Africanist who is thinking from a different perspective altogether?
Thank you so much for that question, and for the people who nominated me along those lines. It's sad what is happening and what is going on in the world, then Africa, and of course our country. It is sad, and no one saw this coming. But even in what I call such Kavio, there is always a blessing. So I'll start by encouraging these people to accept that the foundations are shaken. You did mention around 29 people had started business. For I think we were online in 2020. South Africa started selling globally in 2020. And so the first thing is to accept. So acceptance really takes you far. It means it's going to manage your posture. It's going to influence your posture towards the issues. And I did, when you told me about this, I did write something. Probably that's the reason you call me professor. Yes, it's an interview, but I take the opportunity to teach, and I'm not a professor that has been awarded a degree. It's just a nickname. So, like I said, the first thing, and our viewers can even get pen and paper, and then we write a few things down to guide us. So I did write 11 points on how to maneuver. I don't know if we have the time to, but I'll be first. And feel free to interject, and we'll make it interactive, enjoyable, and quite something for our viewers. So like I said, mine was to first accept that the foundations are shaken, because now that is going to help you measure, you know, where the cracks are. But if you sail through and like nothing is happening, then you have a problem. It's like an ostrich buried their head in the sand and think the whole body is not being seen, but you know, the whole of the body is on the other side. So point number 2 is to not to make by not making things worse, is to act. To apply action, to act. And first we said that you accept, and then now we are saying you act. Of course, businesses have different challenges. Like your friend you talked about has 45 guys. He has to think about how to survive the 45 guys, how to lay off the 45 guys. He has different challenges, but it's not just 45. It's the rent, it's the many things. So the thing is to act. Act. If you have a rent, then you need to write to the landlord. Is to act. and pick yourself up, be strong. I know where strength's gonna come, because it's hard to tell someone who's lost even friends and family to be strong. But we need to be strong for each other. And part of why we're even spending this time is to help our friends be strong.
Yeah.
Is to help them, strengthen their resolve in them, making a way through this pandemic.
Yeah.
So the point number 3 that I wrote is dealing with reality, not fiction.
Wow.
You get what I mean?
Yes.
So reality, I talked about in a previous point about when you're talking about rent, for example, that's the reality. Yeah. You probably rent an office of, say, $1 million shillings, Uganda shillings, and yes, you need to deal with that reality. You need to write to your employees, to the landlord. That's the action we talked about. Yeah. But the reality is not dealing with fiction, what people are saying, what you heard the other side. You analyze and then you act.
Yeah. Wow.
The other day, I think I was seen on social media walking,
yes.
But I wasn't walking for fun.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I wasn't walking for fun. I had a deal.
The business.
I had a business in town.
Yes.
And someone was paying some money for me to do something, and I was like, okay,
You can't drive?
I can't drive because I'm not amongst essential workers, and I didn't have a bicycle. So I was like, and in Entebbe, I thought about where to buy a bicycle. Probably I thought they would be more expensive. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to walk. So I prepared that night, ate fruits, did all what I thought would take me through the 42 kilometers, and I walked. So as people are enjoying my walking moment, because I shared it on social media, internally I knew that I'm going to finish something.
Yes.
So that way, I managed to walk and get to Kampala after 4.5 hours, and I was able to meet my client and then go through.
So it was actually walking for you to go
to do business.
To do business.
Yeah.
Now I just want to just hold it right there, and I want to interject from that point. Many of us, when we become CEOs, or by CEOs, I mean Chief Executive Officer. It means that there are smaller other executive people under you here that runs probably finance, human resource, administration, that runs marketing here.
Yes.
But you are now the chief, because you are now looking at things from a visionary point of view, directional point of view, and finding the pathways for us to get there and solving the problem that the team here not. So one of them is to get business and to connect business to them. Then they can do the business. That's the CEO we're looking for.
Definitely.
Yeah. So at that level, and we learned this from a business development manager called Dr. Jean-Paul Olo.
Yes.
Talked about it on the show here. And we learned something from there, that at that level you're focusing on strategic partnerships and direction.
Yes.
Now, many CEOs at that level can't sit on borders, don't want to walk on the road, and when they can't move, when there's no vehicle, they're always driven.
Yeah.
But yet we saw you here with Saint Africa. I don't know whether Ugandans and many Africans actually understand or been to that website to see what Saint Africa is really putting out there. But when we see you walking from there, 42 kilometers to Kampala, and we're enjoying the walk, and you are coming to meet another CEO who is giving you business, and when I learned of the business volume that you are picking from this CEO and going, it was such a very, I would say, mind-boggling situation.
Yeah.
To see how when we rise to a certain level, we can't come down.
Yeah.
What informed your decision to do that?
It's still, I was looking at the business, and I'm like, of course I couldn't send anyone.
They are also in lockdown.
They are also in lockdown, but also I was meeting the CEO, so it needed to be at that level. So he's like, are you able to make it? And I'm like, yes, I'm able to make it. I didn't tell him how. So I started working, and for me it was what I'm winning for the rest of the company. And of course, when I win that, I win it on behalf of the rest. So it is always on behalf of the rest. I'll go the extra mile.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. We want to take a break, Bedford, and when we come back, you'll pick it up from point number 4, which is the reality. We're learning from the CEO and as well as the business proprietor, the founder, and you nominated him to come to the show. He has 11 points so far, 3 knocked down, and I think that 1, think about it, if I'm not mistaken. Number 2, take action. Number 3, look at the reality. All right, we'll be right back after the break.
An army of sheep led by a lion will beat an army of lions led by a sheep. That's a pay. Yeah. So let's be very honest about this thing, and really understand that you need to understand where you lie and where you fall. So it's very important for us to understand that leadership has to be definitive. You can't be laissez-faire. It has to be definitive. You have to be strong, just like a lion. When a lion meets an elephant or a buffalo or whatever, the buffalo and all these animals run away. And yet, by the way, they are stronger than the lion. They are heavier than the lion. They are more intelligent than the lion. They are taller than the lion. They run away. The lion, because of its attitude, it sees lunch. That is a leader.
Mr. Tonatra, thank you very much for coming to the CEO bench. And I want to ask you, so if you were elected the President of the Republic of Uganda today, what would be your first State of Nation address? Now, as you look into the camera and close the show.
I think my first State of the Nation address would first of all to... I think I'll just close it down.
The CEO bench is about leadership, change management, and transformation. And all we've been talking about here, from the votes that came in, the 30 votes that came in, we wanted Bedford Buyungo to come back to the program and give, some nuggets of truth about how we can help our struggling businesses. This is from the private entrepreneurs corner. And of course, I think that he's been able to give that, coming from the background of a brand developer, product developer, marketer, an advertiser, and an entrepreneur, and a Pan-Africanist, thinking at a different level altogether. Bedford, if you'll pick it up from point number 10 as we close.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm enjoying the viewers' comments as well.
Yes.
I'm 43 years in August.
Wow.
So I was born in 1978.
Yeah.
And yes, I know I probably look old.
Yeah.
But in a different part of the world, my age, you're very old.
Yeah.
Being there, done that.
Yeah.
In this part of the world,
You're just starting.
We're just starting.
In fact, we make money when we are 40 plus. They said we start to become serious at 45.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we don't live a very healthy life to see us enjoy that, because at 40 we are dying. I mean, how many of our colleagues have died at 40?
Yeah.
Because they are not living a very healthy life
and
a fit life to be able to enjoy the start of this process of the journey.
Yes.
And so one of the things that I'm trying to do in many of my thinking right now is to turn my skills and my training of health and fitness to be able to make other people become successful.
Yes.
And I believe that if I make them become successful
yes.
in being healthy and fit,
yes.
I will make money off all my life. The
Great.
reason being, if they are successful, they will always not forget the water that you know, the hand that was feeding them.
Definitely.
I mean, if I train 1,000 people, give information to 1,000 people, I'm hoping that maybe about 500 will come back. The other 500 will throw me off balance.
No, the 500 will come.
Yeah, but there's the 500 people who are going to come. So yes, you're right when you say the age, and until we need to pick up from the health and fitness point of view as you know, CEOs and entrepreneurs at your level you've reached, to be able to think serious. Guys, health and fitness is key, and I think that COVID-19 is helping us settle the boat, the balances, you know, checking us there and right and left and center, that you are home. By the time you're coming back from the 42 days, you probably put on so much weight, you know, the anxiety has kicked in. You cannot think very well for your business because you are unfit and unhealthy at the same time. And that means that your productivity, like Bedford said, in the other part of the world, 43, they are retiring. You know, in this part of the world, 43, we are starting and yet we are dying. So we have not started, we are not even not there.
Yeah.
Unless we're able to work our way stronger and more fitter. But over to you, Bedford. Sorry, I had to interject with that point because you touched something quite very important in this discussion.
No, that's very important.
Yeah.
There is something I call the fast tracking of the African mind.
Yes.
And that's what we need.
Yeah.
In the area of health, in the area we need to fast track our thinking.
Yes.
And if you were miseducated for 19 years, you need to unload the 19 years fast. And then retape.
Yes.
If it was, you know, like the video recording, and retape new knowledge.
Yes.
And then get on the faster lane we talked about, and then run.
Yes.
If it's a race, 100 meters dash, and you're against Usain Bolt and all that, just know that Usain Bolt, Tyson Gay, they are at the 50-meter mark, and you're on the 0 mark. Appreciate it that way. That's how we started. That you need to appreciate that you are locked down for 42 days, but the other world is moving, and they are much more better than you. They have system, they have addresses, which mean everything. They have social security, they have everything, and you are at the 0 mark trying to
catch up.
So my 10th point is find someone to mentor you. My 11th point, I guess, find someone to mentor you. I touched about it a little bit, but let me stress it out that we need to find someone.
That is actually point number 10.
Yeah.
We wrapped up 10 and 11 years. You said you put 11 points.
Yeah. We need, you need to find someone to mentor you in the area of health. If that's the need you have. You in the area of business. Like I have a few mentors and I treat them like fathers. I told you the guy who taught me how to calculate, how to use the calculator was someone who even has no degree. But I appreciated his touch. I mirrored him against people who have degrees and economists, and I'm like, I'm going with this guy who employs 3,000 people, pays them every 2 weeks on time.
Yes, and runs the company that supplies East Africa, and now I think it's Africa.
He's in 9 countries.
Yes.
I'm like, this guy, he has to be my mentor in the area of finance, in the area of numbers. So occasionally I check on him. Even yesterday I sent him, MZ, I hope you're well. And he said, yes, I'm good. How about you? I said, I'm good. So in the area of spirituality, I have my mentor. In the area of excellence, I have the Michael Jackson guy. You know, he's 64. Dorian Hall is 64. He's retired. He's still doing, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But I'm making use of him. And guess what? If Michael Jackson paid him, he's giving me free knowledge.
Wow.
I have Professor Lumumba, because that is the direction I'm taking. As a Pan-Africanist, I need a Pan-Africanist who can easily introduce me to people. I need a Pan-Africanist who tells me, I think you're going on the wrong trajectory. I think this is it. We need Pan-Africanists who don't just talkers but doers. So that's what Professor Lumumba tells me. So occasionally, I think for you to hire Professor Lumumba to speak, you'd have to pay 6,000 USDs. He gives me that knowledge for free. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course, a mentor will have to appreciate your hunger and then start,
to feed the anger.
Yeah, but these are people who've done things. And I'm saying they are not leaving me behind. I'm going with them. Let me go under Kameme, but I'll reach. Eventually, I'll be able also to mentor others.
Wow. Let's go to point number 11 as we close the show.
Of course, point number 11 is learning from experience. We had the first pandemic, and if we didn't learn anything, the second pandemic is clearly telling us that the world is on reset.
Yes.
If you think that you're going to open up a shop, a cloth shop, and sell the way you used to sell before COVID, then it's like you're waiting for the ship at the airport.
Wow.
Things have changed.
Wow.
Things are very virtual. If you think that your human resource staff is going to be able to work the way they used to work, then you're wrong, because these people, while at home, they've been introduced to many other things. Some of them are learning new skills. So if you view them the way you used to view them before, it's like waiting or winking at a woman in the dark.
Wow.
You better stand and appreciate that things have changed. Take stock.
Wow.
Sit down with a paper and pen and say human resource. Plot it and say things have changed. Interview your staff. You know, ask them what they want to be in 5 years. I promise you they'll tell you different things. They've learned things. Some of them know what is working and what is not working. So I want to thank you for the opportunity of hosting me here. For the viewers who who've been watching us, the people who nominated me, and I want to tell them that or give them encouragement. I shouldn't give. They should still have hope that things are going to be better, and they should look north. And of course, if they are spiritual, God will come to our rescue, and but God has to find us doing something. They need to learn. They need to have their visions clearly written, because that will help the posture they're going to take. And also to remind them that we as Research and Development Fellows are constantly coming up with ideas of how to make things better. For example, we are going to have the cheapest mortgage in the world. And you and I are going to work on that. We'll have the cheapest mortgage in the world. Housing is going to be
something that has never been discussed before, something has never been thought about before.
Definitely.
Something that people have never even thought about in their wildest imagination.
Yeah, housing is going to be a human right. We're going to make it here in Uganda. You and I and our team, we're going to make it happen. It's not going to be that for you to own a house, you've succeeded. That would be the foundation and not the limit.
Wow.
To your success.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Well, Bedford, thank you so much for coming to the CEO Bench today. I would like to say we are really extremely humbled to have you back on the show today. And I think that those who have nominated you have not gotten anything short than their expectations were at the beginning, and that informed their decision to nominate you to come back to the show. And to everyone out there, thank you very much for being part of the show. I would like to say thank you, and we're looking forward to having you anytime we have the vote. The CEO Bench is purely about the vote. You see the person, you don't understand them, but you hear about them and you want them to come. We created this platform so that they can come and share their ideas. 1.5 hours of them sharing their ideas, sharing their thoughts, and of course their experiences in the area of leadership, change management, and transformation. Until then, we want to say thank you and keep it the CEO Bench. Like Bedford Buyunga said, we're working on something. Again, don't wink on that woman in the dark. As the pandemic comes, that's a learning for today. As you come out of 42 days, please put the light, put the glasses, and see the beauty of that human being called the business that God had placed before you. And like he has said, you have to make sure that you don't wait for God to find you when you are seated. Rather, God should find you when you're walking. Until then, keep it the CO bench. Bedford Buyungo, Ed Your Killer, signing out.
Welcome to this edition of the Coffee Break. This is House of Talent and my name is Atengi Manuel. Remember, this is the show that we get to talk all about coffee, what's happening in the coffee business, different elements about coffee. And back in the studio today is someone we all love, someone we've taken a long time without seeing. I love saying it, the Coffee Messiah is back. It's like the second coming of Jesus. So the Coffee Messiah has come back. Amon, welcome back to the show.
Well, it's nice to be here again.
Yeah, it's good to see you. You've actually been gone for a while. I don't know, were you like out converting people, you know, bringing people more into the coffee side?
Well, I've been trying to make ends meet and yeah, happy, healthy, so it's good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. I hope your ends have met.
Yeah, they have definitely they have met.
Well, to complement the Coffee Messiah, we have someone else in the studio, the first female guest we ever had on this show. And at the beginning of the show, she told me that since we have a Coffee Messiah, we should have a coffee goddess. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Swabra Banks, to the show. Swabra, you're very welcome to the Coffee Break show. I know like a lot of people out there, whenever you tell them your name is Swabra Banks, okay? The Banks part is not a Ugandan name, totally not, okay? So how did you end up with that name?
That's a name that was given to me by a sister of mine, actually, because she used to believe in me and she was like, you're going to get a lot of money. Yeah, so she gave me the name Banks. Yeah.
So have you reached that point where you have that a lot of money?
Yes, yes, I thank God, yes.
All right, so probably after this we're going to the bank with Swabra Banks. Yeah, but that's interesting. Welcome to the show. We just want to start off with basically your profile. Who is Swabra Banks? Who is I'm a Barista? You know, where did you grow up, and how did you end up into the coffee business?
Okay, so Swabra Banks is a barista.
Yeah.
I grew up in Entebbe Road, Ndege, and I went to Mutesa, One-Way University. I was doing mass comm. And then how I ended up into coffee, it was through a friend of mine who is now like a brother to me. He pitched this coffee thing to me. Of course, I didn't have interest in coffee, and I had to go and enroll in the academy. And then as I was doing the coffee course, I fell in love with the coffee.
Oh, that's very interesting. So you talked about, in Mutesa when you actually did a course in mass communication.
Yes.
So growing up as a child, what did you want to be? People always want to be a lawyer, some want to be a pilot. I had some kids say they wanted to be a taxi conductor because they hold a lot of money.
Yeah.
So growing up, what did you think you would be in the future?
I wanted to be an actress actually because I loved movies ever since I was a young girl, and I think I love the camera from day one. That's why I went to mass comm. Yeah.
So are there any hopes of you getting into the movie industry in Uganda?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I'm not taken by the coffee industry.
Well, that's very interesting. Amon, to hear from you. I also know that, growing up you wanted to be something. What did you want to be when you were a kid growing up? I know there was nothing like a barrister in your mind. I don't even think you knew about coffee at that time. So, from my perspective, I think you wanted to grow up and be a model, but you can correct me on that.
Why would you choose a model? Well, me from, I want to be a journalist.
Okay.
I think I realized that in my P6.
Yeah.
We had a teacher who was doing journalism at the same time teaching us SST.
Yeah.
So this guy was like a lifestyle guy. He used to be a very, very, very inspiring guy. So I liked him from the start.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I want to be a journalist. So that's how I picked a dream of becoming. At least I'm trying to achieve that, you know. Because right now, if I'm doing mass comm, at the same time, this we're doing coffee, so I'm still on the track. I'm not like Swabra who's already taken by coffee.
Yeah. The most amazing thing is that actually all the three of us here have done mass comm at a certain level.
Wow.
Okay, and
so we have one thing in common.
Yes, we have something in common at least. The other thing we have in common is that, we all passionate about coffee, which is a very good thing. So, Swabra, you told us that a friend of yours who's now like your brother introduced you to the coffee industry.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I know that when someone introduces you, there is always a pitch they give you.
Yeah.
It's like if I want someone, let's say the Coffee Messiah always goes out to convert people and he has to give a pitch of why should I join the coffee business instead of actually starting a boutique, okay? Which one will make more sense? So what were some of those things that he told you about the coffee business that actually pulled you into it?
Actually, the most interesting part about it was he also didn't know anything about coffee. he wasn't a barista by then. He just told me you have to do this course and then come to Dubai and make a lot of money because the coffee business there is money. So I also went into it to study to go and get money.
Okay.
But along the way, of course, I fell in love and I decided to stay in Uganda.
All right, so you talked about Dubai. Most of the people we've had on the show have had some experience with the Middle East. We had a guy who worked in Kuwait as a barista. So moving from Uganda to Dubai, did you go and work as a barista or you went and got involved, into other businesses?
I went to Dubai way back. I think that was around, it was around 2014, but it wasn't coffee. Yeah, I knew coffee after I came back to Uganda. Yeah, because he was like, now that you're back for your vacation, you should do something different and then come back as someone new.
Okay.
Yes, that's when I went into the coffee industry.
Amon, I remember last time we were talking about you not wanting to go out of the country, to become a barista. And I don't know if your mind has changed since then, yeah? But like most of our baristas go to Dubai, they go to UAE, yeah? I really haven't heard of any barista who has gone maybe to America, maybe to Europe. Is it easier as a barista to go from Uganda to the UAE than it is to go maybe to Europe or to America?
Well, guys do go in the UK, in the US. Guys do go, but only that these people go in the line of maybe doing hotels, not coffee shops. Because it's because someone is easy to access that side, and whoever goes that side, now there's a lot of connection that side, so people get to know that, okay, Emma went to UAE. But when someone goes maybe to UK, it will be hard for someone to know, because maybe like it's a family or a family friend who gets to know that, you know what, Emma went to UK. But people do go that side, and they make a lot of money.
That's very interesting. Still talk about Dubai. I know there are very many differences basically between Dubai and Uganda. Okay,
Yes.
and going there, I believe there was that cultural change. So, how were you able to deal with the culture change? Because I know that Uganda is more of a freestyle kind of place, and Dubai is really a strict place, especially when it comes to ladies. So, how were you able to manage the culture change from Uganda then to Dubai?
It was really tough. It was tough for the first months. I think the first 2 months, and then of course the fact that I went to Dubai as like looking for a job and all that. There are also other people who come to Dubai that are not from that country. Yeah. So that kind of gave me a sense that I'm not alone in this. So of course you have to make friends. You have to learn the language, because learning the language is the most important thing to do. So I caught up with the situation.
Okay, so did you learn the language?
Yes, of course.
Okay, that's very interesting. So
I like the language.
If I went to Dubai and wanted to order a cup of coffee, okay, how would I say that in Arabic?
I don't remember.
So basically you learned a few things like maybe a greeting.
Yes.
You know?
I used to know all of it actually, but it's been a while. I don't remember all of it.
Because in most cases, when you learn a language, what you get to know is how you greet and everything's like to keep you running in case you get lost. It's like those guys who come to Uganda. What they need to know is Mwasuze Mutia, Olibulunji, something like that. But they can't go beyond that. Yeah.
I like how you say that, Olibulunji.
Because that's how they say it. That's how they say it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I also believe that dealing with people, basically when you're a barista or at that time you're a waitress, okay? You have to deal with people, okay? And customers are really different. You'll find a customer who's really nice and sweet. Then there are those who are backing orders at you. You know, there are those that you can't deal with. So did you ever find yourself in a situation whereby you were presented with a customer who was really harsh, okay? And how did you deal with that situation?
The first thing these people do is to train you, customer care, how to handle clients, because of course they also know how clients behave. So you start up with everything like the day when you know what's coming. Yes, because you're in a country that is not yours. So every time you could get maybe a harsh client, you could know how to handle. You just be polite and apologize, and then you get the order and then you move on.
Okay, interesting. To Amon, I know that in Uganda there are certain places that I've gone to and there's totally no customer care. You enter a restaurant, you order for something. First of all, I believe that when you go to a restaurant or to a coffee shop, okay, someone is supposed to come and attend to you, all right? But there are some places that in Uganda you go to a hotel, you go to a coffee shop, and you really have to call the waiter or call the waitress to get served, okay? Amon, how has been your experience in Uganda in relation to customer care, especially where you work? Are we up to the mark of good customer care, or we still need a lot of help in that part?
Well, to be honest, in Uganda we still have the poorest customer care. Because in most cases, these guys who are in customer care or customer service, most of them are either in school and they're just doing the job for the sake of doing the job, but they are professional customer care attendants. These guys have studied this. They have gone to like a room and studied this. They have gotten training, so they know how to handle a person. But in Uganda, it's really, really hard to find a very, very good customer care. For a case of where I have been in a few places, I haven't had that bad experience with customer care because I've went to a coffee shop and I've received instant care, instant customer service, and it's been a nice experience. So I haven't received that bad service.
All right. According to me, I think that just like you said, we really haven't reached the mark. We still need a lot of help when it comes to the customer care industry. And I believe that most of the time, you know, you just get a job and there's really not much training put into it. You just start working and you don't know how to deal with people. I believe that the most important part when it comes to such a service industry is not even the coffee you're brewing or it's not the food that you're giving. It's basically how you treat the customers. Okay, that's what keeps them coming back. Okay. So, Abra, before we go for a break, basically how we got to you was that you were blowing up on social media. Okay. A little bird told us that there's a certain barista that is now blowing up on social media. Okay, and it really caught our attention. We're like, oh, okay, you know, baristas are actually getting out there. You know, the coffee business is starting to grow. Yeah. So before we go for break, I just want you to tell the viewers out there, okay, who are you on social media? What is your name on social media? Are you Swabra Banks? Are you someone else on social media? Because sometimes people have aliases, you know. I'm one on Facebook, I'm one person, then on Instagram I'm another person. So before we go into a break, just tell the people who you are on social media.
On social media, I use I am a barista. Okay. Yes.
That's both on all your social media platforms?
All my social media platforms, yes.
Okay. Yeah, please.
That is Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
Okay. We're going to get into a break right now. In the studio, we have Amon Mukisa, the Coffee Messiah, and we also have Swabra Banks, the Coffee Goddess, and me, the Coffee Human, Ateng Emmanuel. We'll take a break right now, and when we get back, we're going to talk more about how you can brand yourself in the coffee business. Stay right there. This is House of Talent Television. Welcome back to House of Talent. This is the Coffee Break Show where we get to talk everything about coffee. And in the studio with me, I have Amon, the Coffee Messiah, and Swabra Banks, the Coffee Goddess. And basically, we've been talking about her life. Where did she start from, and how did she end up in the coffee business? We also had Amon telling us about his experience and what he wanted to be, you know, when he grew up. He said he wanted to be, you know, a journalist, okay, which I believe that you're studying, okay. You got me wrong. I thought you wanted to be a model, but here we are.
Why did you think I wanted to be a model?
Maybe look like one.
Yes. I mean, when someone looks at him, you know, you can see the well-kept beard, you know, the well-kept hair, the nice shirt. I think it's something that, you know, you really need to look into.
Maybe I should.
Yes, you should. Okay. At least we'll say we know someone famous. Yeah, but like I said before, we went into a break. We're just getting into basically branding in the coffee business. Okay. Before I saw your profile on Instagram, I really hadn't seen any other barista who would put themselves out there. You know, it's like being a barista is only what you do when you're at your coffee shop or when you're at your place of employment. Okay, it's not like how you have all these social media influencers, you know, always putting out their videos, you know, tweeting on Instagram. I really haven't had anything from a barista. Okay, and it's good to have someone with experience. Okay, we just want to know, how do I start? If as a layman, I've gone to, you know, barista school, I'm a barista, where would I start when it comes to branding myself as a barista?
I think the first thing you have to do is get the passion.
Okay.
Yes, because you can do everything, but as long as you don't have the passion for it, you're not going to make people love it. Okay. So at the end of the day, you have to fall in love with it first, and then do some research. Don't be in the comfort zone. You have to do some research, know more about the industry, be down to earth. You don't have to show off and all that. And have content. You should have content. Always have content. People love to see what is unique about the industry. What is she doing other people are not doing? How come she's doing this and other people are not doing it? Let me follow her. Let me try to do as she's also doing. So at the end of the day, you make people love what you're doing. If you also love what you're doing.
Yeah, so basically the first thing you're saying is have a plan.
Yes.
Okay? Sit down with yourself and say, you know what, this is what I want to achieve.
Yes.
Okay, these are the steps to it. All right, so I have a plan. This is what I want to do. Okay, but I'm not yet out there in social media.
Yeah.
One of the first things when you're basically picking a name, when you're picking social media platforms or what you're going to be on social media, is picking a name.
Yes.
Okay? The name, I believe, has to stand out.
Yes.
And the name has to be catchable, something that will stay.
Yes.
All right, so you use I am a barista. Okay. How did you come up with this name? I believe that there were countless other names. You'd have just used Swabra Banks. I believe that in itself is a very good name.
Yes.
So how did you end up with I am a barista?
I'm one person who is very proud about being a barista. So the name just came up because I'm proud of being a barista. And, you know, people used to call me Banks, Banks, Banks. And I wanted to stop that, to stop people to call me Banks. And maybe start calling me barista. So I wanted to send a message out there that I am a barista. Yes, I'm not a barista.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, Amon. Amon, when it comes to branding, okay, what would be the first step in your regard, in your perspective?
Well, when it comes to branding, I think it's the cause and the value you stand for. because branding involves personalization or personality, then it involves this other side we're putting out.
Okay.
Because I try to ask myself, why are we not having baristas taken as ambassadors of certain things? For example, we're having different artists come out and they're ambassadors of tourism, and yet coffee is a very, very key major factor in maybe tourism.
Yeah.
Why don't we have these baristas come out and they're like, you know what, Swabra Banks is the ambassador of tourism in terms of coffee, you know, she's going to influence coffee growing in a park or in Gulu. So why don't we have that? I think, like as Swabra is saying, you need to know why you're doing something, and you need to come out of the cage and start doing that. Because if we have various baristas have traits of branding themselves, for example, if I am a barista and I know, okay, I want to go beyond being the station, you know, I want to be out there, I want to show that I'm a proud barista and I can do whatever it takes to be that good person who can be approached and they give me business and I want to influence for a certain cause, you know? So that would be a good thing. So like Sobra is saying, I just want to know how she came out with the name I am a barista, because it's really working. Because yes,
thank you.
Someone asks you, who are you? I am a barista. So how did you come out with that?
As I've said before, I'm proud to be a barista, and I am a barista. It's not special. It's just that I wanted to send a message to people that I'm a barista now, and I'm proud to be one. That's how I came up with the name, just like that. I am a barista.
Have you been approached by different companies to like do business with you because of I am a barista? Yes, because everyone is like, what does barista mean? And then they have to look it up, and then they're like, oh, it means someone who does this and this and this. Because a barista is something huge. A barista doesn't just make coffee. No, we make a lot of things. You know that we make juice, we make ice things, and all that. Yeah. So being a barista is something that really makes people want to know who a barista is, not just Swabra Banks, because someone will be like, oh, Swabra Banks and I see coffee, or maybe she's in the coffee business. Now, Emma, you see, like, she's speaking about being a barista. Most of us didn't know that a barista does coffee, does juices, does cocktails, various beverages. So at least if we brand ourselves as baristas, we get to put our image out there, and we get some business coming through.
I remember someone telling me that the first time he heard the word barista, he thought it was
a lawyer.
A lawyer.
Because you know, let me tell you something. I was having a conversation with now his spokesperson of NUP, Joe Senyon. So the first time I met him, he asked me, "What do you do?" Because it was after my senior six. I'm like, I'm a barista. Wait, I'm studying to be a barista. For you already a barista.
So most times people actually get it confused. We still haven't reached that place in Uganda where we know what a barista is. We can't really put the line between a barista of law and a barista as someone who does coffee. So I have my plan, picked out my super cool name. All right, I'm ready to go on social media. Okay. What is that brand identity? Every time I look at Swabra Banks' account, every time I look at Amon's account, what are some of those messages that you want me to get without you ever talking to me? There are some social media handles of different people that you see, okay, and you just get certain keywords immediately, like this one is friendly, this one is really nice. What are some of those words that come to someone when they log onto your Instagram page?
In most cases, when I'm posting something on my Instagram, I make sure I'm sending out a message. It doesn't have to be coffee specifically. It can be something else. So I always want to show people that a barista is not just making the latte art and all that. It comes right from the garden to the cup. So in most cases, when I'm posting something on social media, I make sure I communicate through my posts or my pictures or my anything that a barista does this and this and this. It's not just coffee. It's a lot of things. So when someone looks onto my page, it's like, oh, even a barista does this. Oh, even a barista does this. Yes, that's what I look at when I'm posting anything.
So I actually love that perspective. showing people that you don't have to be, you know, boxed up in only one thing.
Yes.
I'm a barrister, but I can actually do, you know, other cool things.
Yeah.
So, I remember I think it was last week when I met you at Indio, I saw you basically interacting with one of your customers, okay? And it was a good thing to see, you know, because that interpersonal relationship you have between a barrister and a customer is a very important thing, okay? So what are some of those qualities that your customers have told you that you have, you know, some of the things that they have complimented you about that actually identify you as Amon Mukisa, the barrister?
Me as a person?
Yes.
Well, well, I think most of them have complimented about the communication skills, because it all goes down to the communication skills. Those simple communication skills. Most people tend to think it's just a thing, but it's a very, very, very crucial thing. Because just imagine someone is talking to you, but you're not paying attention to them. For example, I'm speaking to Swabra, but I'm looking at you. That's already a turn off.
Yeah.
Someone needs attention, needs to be shown that, okay, I'm talking to you, you know, I'm attending to you. So if you're attending to a client or having a conversation, because sometimes you can't be busy on a station. She's a trainer right here.
Yeah.
I don't know why she trains her students, for example, to handle a busy station. But just imagine now I have a busy station and a certain Edwin comes on station and is like, okay, he wants to have that conversation.
Yeah.
How are you going to handle that, Edwin? To show him that, you know what, Edwin, I'm busy, you know, but let's talk after having this whole mess worked out, you know? So that's what keeps you going, or keeps a brand of a barrister compared to someone who's going to just come, okay, I'm busy. And just comes out and say, oh, why Edwin? Don't want to be busy, you know, something like that. So it's a way how you interact or how you communicate with this person that keeps you in that same state they see you. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's not just about, you know, like I used to think before, you know, I knew about the whole barista thing. I used to think being a barista is basically just pouring coffee for someone.
It's called, you know, the word is a barista, which means it comes from the bar, then barista, you know? So it means it's a bar, someone can access that bar, you know? So if someone accesses that bar, you don't have a right to chase them away. That's because it's a bar.
So you have to go basically above and beyond what you do. It's not just about giving them the coffee. You have to create some sort of relationship.
It actually means a bartender who is a star. That's what it means.
Maybe Emma, I just want to know from Swabra, what are you using as your brand to add value on the coffee industry? Is it just Swabra, oh, I am a barista, just for the sake of social media? But how are you using I am Swabra as a brand to add value on the coffee industry, and how are you doing that?
First of all, I'm doing that through my trainings. I make sure I give the real content, the genuine content, and then quality. A lot of people are in the business, but they don't, you know, give quality out there. They prefer getting a lot of money without even putting in. So to me, it goes back to quality. You have to make sure you give people quality, both the knowledge part of it and the, you know, the coffee part of it. Yeah, quality.
Okay. Before we get into another break, okay, I know that, okay, now we have the plan, we have the name. Basically, now I want people to know that, you know what, let's say I'm Emmanuel, I'm a coffee human, because I have a goddess and a messiah here.
No, now you're a coffee genius.
You know, so these are the different words. I want people to know I'm friendly. I want people to know that I'm not only a barista, there's basically other things that I do, okay? How do you go about creating your content? Because I believe that is the most important thing when it comes down to social media. You have to create content that is basically engaging and content that will keep people coming back. You know, so before we go for a break, how do you as Swabra Banks, you know, sit down and create your content that will capture the attention of other people?
Research, through research. I do a lot of research actually. All the time I'm on my phone doing research. Research comes through in a lot of ways. First of all, you have to show people that we have competitions. you know, baristas have competitions. It's not just about other people. Yeah, so there are a lot of interesting parts in our coffee industry that people don't know yet. People don't even know you have competitions here in Uganda. Yet
I was actually about to say we should start one, but now
we
that
do.
you said there
Yes,
is.
we do. I actually tried to compete. I think that was 2020, but the COVID thing came up and everything was stopped. Yeah, so you have to do a lot of research and make people, first of all, love the industry. You have to know what people like. Not just putting things on social media and all that. No, you have to know what's trending, what should I post, how should I put it out there, and you have to follow a lot of baristas to know what's going on.
Yeah, so you just don't come out there and throw something on social media without a plan.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to take a break right now, and we'll still be talking to Swabra. We also want to know how Amon comes up with his content, because I know he's not only a barista, there's a lot of other things you actually do. So I want to know how he comes up with his content, and we'll also be brewing coffee. Everyone who comes on the show has to brew for us a good cup of coffee. So we're basically rating up to now who has given us the best cup of coffee. We'll be doing that after the break. This is the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television. Welcome back to the Coffee Break on House of Talent Television. My name is Ateng Emmanuel, and remember, you can catch us on our social media handles at House of Talent Television. That's on our Twitter and on our Facebook. This show will be airing there. You can also catch us on our website, which is houseoftalentug.com. Don't miss the show. If there's someone out there, if you know a barista, someone who's involved in the coffee business and they're not watching the show right now, give them a call and let them know we are on. Before we went into the break, we're basically talking to the Coffee Goddess and the Coffee Messiah about how they come up with content. And Swabra told us, she sits down and she has to do research on how to, get very good content and put it out there. Content that is basically engaging and content that will keep people glued to, your social media. Amon, I know that you're not only a barista, you're also a YouTuber. Okay, so how do you go about getting content for your YouTube channel?
Well, one thing I have to say is, first, you just have to know what you want to put out there. And you as a person, what are your values? Because you won't do something that doesn't follow under your values. And what's the cause? I just doing content just for the case of doing content. That's why when you start doing such type of content, you end up losing it. But when you have the cause, you're like, okay, my cause is vegetation or growing trees. What am I going to do to make sure that we have a larger number of villagers? Okay, that might sound rude. A larger number of people in villages, grow more trees, you know? So you start planning that. So that's how you come up with your content.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So I've come up with content, I'm out there now, and I know that there are certain people, influencers, musicians, different people on social media who are not easily accessible. Okay, I believe that one of the things you have to be as an influencer is be accessible to people, because people want to interact with you, they want to ask you different types of questions, and there's this whole thing of these days that, sliding into someone's DM, which has become, when you say, I sent a DM to someone, they demonize you, they look at you like, So I just wanted to ask Swabra, how approachable are you on social media? Are you that kind of person? Let's say if I ask a question, I send you a message, do you get back in time, or do you even get back at all? Or it's just, social media, what you see is what you get at, that's the end of it. So how do you go about, talking to people on social media?
I do get back, though not that quickly. I do get back to people and of course interact with them. Some come with questions and you have to answer them, make them fall in love with the industry, and they end up saying, oh, I didn't know this, I didn't know actually you people are, of recent, a friend of mine even told me, I didn't know baristas get certified. After I told him that, we go to the academies and all that and we get certified. So the whole thing is, I get back to them, and in the process of getting back to them, I make sure at least I educate them in one way or another how beautiful the industry is, and at least they don't end up going back as they came to my inbox.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Amon, how do you take advantage of, you know, that kind of scenario whereby someone sends you a message and they want to get to know more about you and also about the coffee business? So how do you take advantage of that? Do you give them all the information, or do you tell them, you know what, you can find me at such and such a place and we can talk? Or you actually take your time and say, you know what, let's talk through this, you know, let's get on a video call or something like that, and let me walk you through it. So how do you take advantage of that kind of interaction?
Well, it depends on how that someone has slided into my DMs.
Exactly.
if this person has come with an agenda of, no, just brief information, and I'm at liberty to give out that information, because there might be someone coming in your DM and they want that secret information.
The whole course.
Yeah, the whole course. Definitely you won't do that. But if it's just giveable information and it's brief, you can give it to them. But also when it needs like sitting down, talk about it, like in nits and gritties, then you have to set up an appointment and then do that. And by the way, that's how you get your brand out there. Because just imagine, Emma, you came into my DM and you asking me something, but the way I respond to you, I show you that, okay, I'm available, but not so much available. Exactly. So if you want me, please make an appointment with me and we shall meet. Then this person will get to know that, okay, this is a high brand that I'm dealing with. I have to pay respect to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, you just advertise yourself there. You bait them into
yes.
You bait them into coming. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah. So the final question I want to ask on branding is this. Okay, I've become a big brand. I'm out there. People know about me. Okay, how do you keep up there? Because I believe it's easier to rise to the top, but keeping in that spot is a really hard thing to do. So to the both of you, how do I keep up there once I've gotten my brand to that level?
First of all, you have to be friendly, because people like friendly people. You have to be friendly and you have to be consistent. You don't have to give the same content all the time. You have to keep changing, beautifying, you know, the industry, you know, and all that. Yeah. So you have to actually make people love coffee. That's what I actually do on my social media handles, and I end up getting students, you know, I want to be like you, you've inspired me. Actually people come to me and they're like, you know what inspired me into coffee is your love for coffee. I've got a lot of them. So you have to give really good content and to be consistent, and friendly actually. Yes.
To Amon, the same thing. How do you keep up there?
Well, I think it's just staying on course, because what you used to take you to that top level, it's what you will use to stay on that top level. Because when you lose what you intended to do, then it means this audience will go away from you. They'll be like, okay, Emma no longer does what we subscribed him to do for us. Then why don't we go to someone who needs to do something we subscribe to? So you lose that content. Hence you're falling.
Okay, interesting. So basically, for those who are watching, if you're a barista, you're involved in the coffee business, even if you're a farmer, I believe that there's a way you can actually brand yourself as a coffee farmer and be I don't think I've heard of anyone. So for a coffee farmer out there, this is a secret tip. This is the right time to brand yourself on social media as a coffee farmer. You don't know how many deals you can actually come up with. Well, we've reached to that point of the show where we get to brew a cup of coffee. You know, we have had very many people here, and we're talking with Amon and saying we need to do a show where we just rate the cups of coffee that we have taken here, and that put a lot of pressure on Swabra, basically, because now she has to make a really good cup of coffee. All right, so Swabra, I know that people watching from home are seeing us with all these, you know, things, and they're wondering, okay, what do they have on the show today? Okay, so we just want to start from the basics. What do we have on our set here, and what kind of coffee are we going to make? So basically, you're just going to run us through it, and I'm going to try and do this with you.
Okay, that's
hopefully I won't make any mistakes.
That's a good thing, because in most cases we teach our people outside there who are viewing to brew this, but today it's hands-on with you also. As they're learning, you're also learning.
It's good that I'm the coffee human here, so I can make a mistake. You guys can't make a mistake. So Swabra, over to you. Just take us through, you know, what we have on set and how we're going to do this.
This is an AeroPress. It's a manual or craft brewing equipment. It is portable. You can carry it anywhere you go. So it is categorized in, or it is under black coffee.
Yeah.
Or brewed coffee. So you're going to brew coffee.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so we have our coffee here. We also have a cup with, you know, different white things inside. You know, they kind of look like, you know, the small pieces of bread we use in the cup. Yeah, so just tell us, what do we have here? Why is it white? Can't we get another color like pink or something like that?
These are filter papers, actually. We use them to filter our coffee.
Right.
Reason being, everything is manual, so we need a filter inside there.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is our filter paper. This is our coffee. This is the AeroPress.
Yeah.
This is where the filter paper actually goes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then our weighing scale right there.
It's amazing that every barista who comes has to weigh their coffee.
Yeah, you need these things. You don't just have
there's
to
always that average of water to coffee. That,
yes.
You have to really
yeah,
get
exactly.
To. Okay, so we have our AeroPress here.
Yeah.
You know, we have our filters. And we're just waiting for our water to get ready so we can go with this. We also have this. You know, this looks like a small ping pong.
This is a spoon.
Instrument, yeah.
This is a spoon. This one we use it to stir our coffee.
Yeah.
It's the barista word is actually bloom. Bloom, not stir, because
so
everyone knows what stir means.
So you bloom, you don't stir.
we bloom our coffee.
So we stir tea.
Yes, but we bloom coffee. Yeah.
All right. So as we go on, for those who are home, it's actually easy to make a cup of coffee. Most people think that you have to have some serious kind of equipment to brew a very good cup of coffee. And I know, Amon, there are people who have asked you, you know, how can I buy this instrument? How can I get this? And I guess you always tell them, you know what, it's easy to make a cup of coffee. You know, you can get a French press or you can get an AeroPress and actually, you know, make this cup of coffee, right? So where do we go next? We have everything set up. I have mine here. I still have no idea where I'm going with this, but let's see how that goes. So what is the capacity of this? Is there a specific capacity, and are there different spoons with different capacities?
Not really, actually, because that's why we need the weighing scale.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the main purpose is making you smart and you work smart to scoop, not just pouring the whole thing.
True.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So here we are.
So you can use any spoon, actually. It's not specifically supposed to be.
Yeah, but this one looks cool. I mean,
it
looks more professional.
Yeah, it's professional. It's the barista spoon, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So